Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now, we are joined by Righteous Force, Refracted Curvature, Neil, Arwin, Brian's Logic, Chocolate Saying, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hello,
Good
hello.
morning.
It's
Yo,
still
yo.
called Twitter, by the way. It's just
Good
a
morning.
logo.
It's come up on my icons on my iPad with a little X, and when I went to it and tweeted out something, there was nothing but X logos on everything, and I didn't see any little birdies, so I'm going to call it X.
Okay, it's still got called Twitter.
That's what it's called now. It's called X now.
Yeah, but it's still on Twitter.com. So
Yeah, sure, but that will get changed in time. I mean, the actual process of sending a message via it, is that now called Xing?
I believe so, yes. I think
I'm
that's
sending
what they're trying to
it's
initiate.
still all very trans because it's still Twitter.com.
Right. So
I heard that Twitter.com goes to actually X.com, but I haven't tested that out. That's what I heard happens, but I don't know.
It's nice that they invented a platform for twits to communicate.
sure, but it's now going to be called sending an X, right? So I'm going to send an X as opposed to I'm going to send a tweet, correct?
Yep.
No.
Oh, it's just like, I don't like this. Things are changing around me. It's not right.
What? The great Elon has changed Twitter, man. So
Frankly, who cares?
I'm going to call it Twitter then.
Who cares?
I'm scared.
I mean, literally, who cares that it's got a branding adjustment? Does it matter? Does it really matter?
Yes, it's a change, and change sucks always.
Change
bad.
equals bad. Not necessarily. Sometimes the good things in life take a little bit getting used to, like my computer. I'm sure it'll be absolutely wonderful, and in 5 years, I'll remember it with the fondest of memories. But there we go. Hopefully this live stream will be a successful one. I'm probably going to extend the live show beyond an hour today, just so you know, so I can do a bit of stress testing. Still at that stage with new components, believe it or not, with a full weekend of stress testing behind me. Anyway, we're going to do some housekeeping, so pay attention. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
No, it's officially not geometric.
that
Yeah,
is claimed by the same people who claimed it was geometric. So picture that.
Yeah, those calculations for the geometry or the geometric horizon require a flat plane, so I don't know if they're ever going to get out of that.
They never claimed the geometric horizon.
Oh, I'm going to stress something, but D Rose has picked up on that. He's fairly good at keeping up with the comment section of the two different channels. So that's Nathan Oakley and this channel, Nathan Oakley 1980. But D Rose has obviously picked up on something that I obviously, as I moderate the comments on my own channels, have also picked up on, which is that there are more than a few people who have started to describe the claims of us being scammers as pure projection. So I'm going to read out Super Chat first and foremost. Thank you, D Rose, for the Super Chat. Excuse me. Although I'm not here live with y'all, I'm here in Spirit Super Chat. Crush the FE frauds, take no prisoners. The actual scammers are projecting upon us. Thank you for the Super Chat, D Rose. Really appreciate it.
And true.
And true.
It does feel like projection.
Any scientific evidence of gravity before we get onto that topic? Scientific
Yes.
evidence of gravity, they can move away from housekeeping. We've done a couple, that's good enough.
No, there's no scientific evidence for gravity.
What would be the observed phenomenon?
Oh, sounds familiar, hey? If you're watching and you've just been listening to the pre-show, sound familiar? Without it being an in-joke, we were talking about the upward rising Earth, which has the identical problems and the identical heart of an upward rising Einsteinian notion of gravity. Just so we're all aware, it suffers the exact same problems. No, Arwin, to answer your question, what would be the observed phenomena? There isn't one. Just a sliding of the scale from 0 to 1, so that you are under the misapprehension that there is 1 G force on you when you do bugger all.
I would disagree. I would say that their phenomenon is anything you observe. Therefore, you could just throw it into a certain affirming the consequent formological fallacy, and there you go.
It's more than that.
Anything I observe.
Anything you observe can be attributed to gravity, but also anything you don't observe as a consequence of a spinning ball belief. Not flying off Earth.
Exactly.
Gravity. Not suffocating in a sky vacuum. Gravity. You know, anything you like that's not happening.
Exactly my point. Yep. Anything you observe, anything. Something happening, something not happening, doesn't matter. It's only happening because of what I say is happening.
Well, wasn't that time?
Not having to
that in there,
descend
too?
in an aeroplane towards the drop, the cavity that's opening up 8 inches per mile squared. Gravity.
I thought time was the cause of all things.
Oh, that's also gravity. That's gravity.
Okay.
I was kind of saying, not to bring it back to that, but I was kind of saying before, like, no disrespect to Rachel. She seems like a very nice person, but I didn't understand why she was trying to correlate this density layer being caused by the Earth rising up with Coriolis. I'm confused by that. Like, what? First of
I
all,
understood that.
what Coriolis?
It's because they don't think consistently, man. We know the answer. Like, it only leads to two things. They're not concerned with committing logical fallacies, and they're not concerned with, the scientific method. That's it.
And
Yep.
she was drowning.
Yeah, that's the two things I said prior to Rachel's visit to Quantum Eraser, as he beckoned her, was exactly that. I was like, the things we need to focus on going forward on the next Ballbusters are understanding fallacies and understanding the scientific method. Those two things will set most of the flat earthers who are currently going astray straight. So, yeah. So the fact that she came and was like, yeah, but what about Coriolis in respect to it being an affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy that had been employed when suggesting that if Earth were to be rising up, then we would observe a density gradient differential. We do observe a density gradient differential, therefore Earth is rising up. Oh, well, what about Coriolis is the answer when pointing out that that's affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy punted out into the arena by Dell. Well, what's the response to that? Not what's an affirming the consequent, how does it work, how is it constructed, how does it not prove what I think seems reasonable and logical? Why are you now saying that's... No, those weren't the responses. Same goes for, that's not a valid hypothesis for a cause and effect relationship that you're asserting with an outrageous claim attached as the cause. Yeah, you need to understand this. If as an audience, if you want to progress, if you want to up your discernment level, that's what you need for it.
That's why I was confused, like, twofold, because I was just like, wait a minute, you're trying to put this so-called observed phenomenon into the scientific method, and obviously that's not working out for you. But then you go into Coriolis, and it's like, wait, first of all, what Coriolis? That the same Earth-based one that we've been debunking for years that there's no proof for? That one? Like, and then what? Does that make Coriolis science? I don't even understand it. I was like, what?
No. I heard
I don't
through
get
the shutting down perfectly reasonable by QE that she was saying, no, you know how the ball seems to curve but doesn't. That was what she was trying to get out. So when you say, was she referring to the non-existent, you and your reference frames are ruined, non-effective Coriolis non-drift that's also 15 degrees an hour on a globe? No, she's talking about actual Coriolis effect and the illusion that you have something occurring when it isn't. And she was going to presumably juxtapose that with an upward rising Earth somehow.
I think she was going for the Coriolis effect is not scientifically validatable, and that's fine because you don't need science to prove the Coriolis effect.
No, you can describe the effect and induce it and show it repeatedly, but in terms of whether or not there's anything that's rotating non-inertial turning reference frame inducing a not actual drift in objects moving detached from you rotating on that non-inertial reference frame through the inertial reference frame, when that object travels through the inertial reference frame straight, but you turning beneath it see it seem to curve, well, so what? It's just an effect you're describing. Is it a natural effect? Probably not. Maybe you can show me where that occurs naturally in nature. I mean, we've pondered this a few times. My example, just for reference, is going down a whirlpool. You know, I can't imagine where that might occur in nature, but I've seen it several times at lakes by giant dams, and they open a little pipe, and literally you see a hole to the hell going through the water. It's really bizarre. Well, I've seen that a few times, and if you imagine swirling your way down that, well, that if you had a naturally induced whirlpool for whatever reason, some cavity opened up below a body of water in the earth, and suddenly the water's swirling its way down, and you're part of that rotating non-inertial turning reference frame, and somehow unaware that you were swirling, and you look at a branch coming towards you and go, oh my God, it looks like the tree's coming to attack me, because you're somehow unaware that you're attached to a non-inertial spinning reference frame. Therefore, it looks like the branch is curving its way towards you as you reach out for it. Thank you, branch. You came to life and reached out to me as I was slipping, unbeknownst to me, actually turning down a whirlpool. So yeah, there are certain examples that you could sandwich this into a naturally occurring phenomena and then science it, if so desired. But why would you?
No,
Sorry.
no, I have to disagree there.
Ironically, a tornado would be a good example.
Or
except
tornado.
The tornado wouldn't be caused by the Coriolis effect. It would be the Coriolis effect being in it.
Right, I used to do the same. Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, right? When she gets picked up in the house, yeah, she's going, oh, right, look at that tree seemingly coming towards the house. Well, no, your house is in a whirlwind. Anyway, yes, Brian, go ahead. You object all the way.
Yeah, I do, because you know that you're rotating. The Coriolis effect is based off you pre-assuming that you are stationary and what you're looking at is rotating. The only natural effect for that exists only within heliocentrism.
Not so fast. Listen back to what I said. You're not going to get one over on me on Coriolis of all the subjects. I said,
you know you're in a whirlpool.
In my example, I said, for the person in the whirlpool who was somehow unaware that they were rotating down a drain. They just thought there was... I did incorporate that fact before you objected. I got that in.
Yeah,
you
but
go
you're
listen.
not going to not be unaware.
I don't know. Some people... Brian. I mean, Brian, gravity. That's how.
That wasn't actually my objection to it. It was the reference frames, since reference frames are a mathematical concept.
Hold on, let me just back Brian now you've said that. If you're on a roundabout and you look down at the floorboards of the roundabout, merry-go-round, whatever it is, and you cup your hands around your vision so that you can only see the floorboards. As you look down at the floorboards with your feet touching them, you and the floorboards are as one, right? You're not moving. The floorboards aren't moving. You're just standing on them, and that's it. That's a non-inertial frame of reference. Because as far as you, your feet, the floorboards, all of it's as one, not moving. Now, in reality...
relate to one another.
Just let me get to the end of the example, Arwin, so that people understand. I thank Paula for this, right? Formerly Level Up. I can't remember what her new name is. Damn. Paula, formerly Bible literalist, formerly Level Up. She likes to change her name a lot. Anyway, it'll have Bible probably in the title somewhere. The point is that she explained why it was non-inertial to me, and up until that point I was really struggling to remember the order when I rattle it off, because I want to be able to bang, 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 rattle off non-inertial and inertial reference frames correctly identified within the example. But I was struggling, because I'm like, it makes no sense. The turning reference frame is, quote, non-inertial, but it's moving. No, from your perspective, looking down at the floorboards, cupping your eyes around it, you're not moving, and neither are the floorboards. It's non-inertial, right? The fact that it is overall turning, it's the idea that you're unaware of that for you to see the effect of a ball tossed over the top of that roundabout seem to curve. Because from your vantage point, you look at it, and as you turn underneath that ball going in a straight line, the ball that is going in a straight line, because you're turning, it looks like it curves. But only if you ignore the fact that it's because you're turning underneath it. Normally, people don't pick up on this effect because their brain is intelligent enough, without even thinking about it, to recognise that no, the ball isn't actually turning at all. You're moving away from it. Like when you travel in a car along the motorway, the hills in the background are not moving, and neither are the parallax effects of the near foreground hills moving at a quicker rate. You understand intuitively, instinctually, that these things are stationary and it's you that's moving. But if you are to mathematically, getting to John's point after backing Brian, to describe that effect of the ball curving when it doesn't, you have to mathematicize the reference frame of a roundabout in this example into a, quote, non-inertial, because you're part of it, turning reference frame to induce the not actual effect of a ball curving when it's actually moving straight. And in so doing, you describe the Coriolis effect. That's what we're doing in case anyone's lost track of what we're describing. It is reasonably complicated.
The Coriolis effect has no
Not
natural
really.
phenomenon. That's the thing. There's no the natural phenomenon was that we look up at the stars and think they're moving, but only because we are. That was the natural phenomenon. But if we're not moving and the stars are moving, then there is no natural phenomenon.
Yeah, the stars are just moving, as we observe them to be apparently doing.
Funny enough, they never made that. As far as I remember, they never claimed the rotation of the stars as Coriolis effect, which is funny enough, right?
No, of course. Of course they don't.
You're going to relinquish one of the two reference frames in your argument, then you can't ascribe it directly to the star's movement at 15 degrees an hour. You can just say we have a Coriolis effect of Earth turning at 15 degrees an hour and don't imply the consequence of the turning stars. But that is directly linked. It's just not overtly stated by our opponents. I don't know if that's true in terms of global rhetoric. Certainly not true in terms of anti-flat Earth.
No, but they never like to address direct Coriolis deviations that should be and are always going to go off, oh, this certain process, like a tornado, is happening as a secondary side effect
Right.
of this.
Well, think about it.
No.
Right?
Let me just... Arwen's on fire here. Everyone stop rumpusing Arwen. He's making a really good point. Go ahead, Arwen.
That
Well,
was my point.
thanks, Chocolate.
Hold on, Arwen. Go ahead, Chocolate.
No, that's my point. Is that the Globers they never, like, how many times have we asked the Glober, where do we see the Coriolis effect? If it was that simple, wouldn't they just say stars, dumbasses?
Yeah, they would.
How many times have we ever heard that? They've never claimed that.
Sure, and in not claiming it, they ascribe it to other things that are rotating as opposed to the non-inertial turning reference frame they claim Earth is. They ascribe it to something else turning like a hurricane and deny that you would see any effect simultaneously, like Dan. Simon Dan said, via a tweet, an X, you and your reference frames are ruined, with an example of a man on a bouncy trampoline being pulled along by a tractor and not drifting away from the trampoline. In other words, look, the two reference frames are as one, there's no deviation. In other words, so Earth turns but the stars don't, because there's only one reference frame. Earth's not turning underneath the stars then, Dan. There's not a deviation at 15 degrees an hour as is claimed to be induced by a turning Earth then, Dan. You're going to relinquish your Coriolis claim then, Dan. You're going to relinquish the second inertial reference frame then, Dan. And so on and so forth, because they don't have a claim because there is no natural phenomena to induce any effect. They just describe it to things like hurricanes. Well, unless you're in the bloody hurricane, you're not going to be inducing a Coriolis effect, because to be inducing that effect, you have to be rotating, observing things do crazy shit like drift when they're not.
Right, but also, wouldn't they not address the stars being directly deviating because of Coriolis, because of the Aries failure?
Just covered that. No, because you've got to relinquish one of the reference frames like Dan did. You and your reference frames are ruined, implying there's only one. If you've got a very clear, distinct reference frame of the rotation of the Earth and the stars being stationary but only seeming to drift at 15 degrees an hour, then it would be pegged down as 2 reference frames really easily. That's why they don't claim it, because you need someone like Dan to be able to say there's only 1 reference frame. Look, no drift. No star drift at 15 degrees an hour would be our response if they overtly claimed it. That's why they don't.
But you see
saying
how
that they stopped claiming it. No,
but
they
this
stopped
was my
claiming it.
point. This was my point.
Here, sorry.
This was my point about why Rachie was quick to grab this topic off the shelf. I think that she's been tricked by that. And I think that's why she was reaching when she was grabbing at straws and her argument was falling apart. That's why she reached for Coriolis, because you can convolute it so easily, because you're working with mathematical reference frames in that, where you're taking the observer out and you're replacing it with mathematical concepts.
Correct. Easy to confuse people with the language of maths. Bible U is Paula's new name. Thank you, Paula, for explaining non-inertial turning reference frames to me so I can disseminate it so concisely as I stutter on my way around my descriptions of consistency. How ironic. Anyway, just for the audience's benefit, so we keep this globe-related, the assertions that we've just detailed with a roundabout turning and you on it, looking at the floorboards not moving, non-inertial turning reference frame. You spin on the roundabout. Okay, we're all clear. That's how we're going to have Coriolis described. You on a roundabout turning. Men either side of the roundabout are going to toss a ball back and forth between them. So the ball is always going to be travelling in a straight line over the top of the roundabout you are standing or sitting on, spinning, beneath the ball that's tossed between the 2 men. As you rotate underneath the ball, from your vantage point on the roundabout, the ball looks like it curves. That's Coriolis effect. Hold on, Brian. Hold on, Brian. Please. That's Coriolis effect. The effect is the not actual drift of the ball. And the rate will be whatever rate you're turning at. So let's pretend for a moment that the roundabout is turning at 15 degrees an hour. Then the rate that the ball will appear to drift from its straight path that it's actually taking is 15 degrees an hour of drift. That's how much drift you see. Translated into the ball paradigm, Earth is the roundabout. Earth is turning underneath an inertial reference frame. For them, the stars would be stationary, not moving. Earth would be the roundabout turning underneath the stationary stars according to the heliocentric globe model, inducing a not actual drift of the stars at the rate that the Earth is claimed to turn at, 15 degrees an hour of not actual drift of the stars. Ergo, you should take off from the Earth in a drone, film the stars, and not only should the drone drift away from you at 15 degrees an hour as it films the stars would stop moving and Earth would continue to rotate underneath the drone, stopping this not actual effect they claim, because the stars would stop moving, but the drone would whiz away from you potentially at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator, because Earth would start to rotate underneath it when it left the roundabout that is claimed to be Earth. Like you jumping off the roundabout. When you jump off the roundabout, the ball doesn't look like it's drifting anymore, because you're not rotating anymore. Anyway, go ahead, Brian.
There's a problem with that.
There's a problem that there's no effect on Earth other than the stars that is claimed to induce it. There's no naturally observed phenomena, but there would be lots of them. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, you know that video where you're watching a ball, you're looking at from overhead at people on a roundabout throwing a ball to each other. But you, from overhead, it appears that the ball is curving for you. So if you watch that, it's you overhead that's looking at the ball appearing to curve. That's not Coriolis. That's some other thing. Coriolis would have to be you looking up from the roundabout and
Correct.
someone throwing a ball straight across the top of the roundabout and it appearing to curve.
That's
So
correct.
I always have a problem with that because that is not Coriolis.
Yeah, throwing the
It's another
ball. It
convolution.
is and it isn't, because the moment you toss the ball, it's essentially left the non-inertial turning reference frame and entered the inertial reference frame, mathematically speaking. So the moment it leaves the hands of the person on the roundabout, it does become confusing because it's left the hands of somebody who is turning. However, Brian's absolutely correct. The effect would be something that's travelling through the inertial reference frame, totally devoid of anything whatsoever on the non-inertial turning platform. So the effect is only capable of being described or induced by you, the observer, turning underneath stuff. Therefore, if Earth has this effect, you would see this effect because you would be, as is claimed, turning underneath stuff. We don't turn underneath anything. That's why people like Simon Dan have to tell us there is no effect to observe, even though the very effect they're claiming is 15 degrees an hour drift as we turn underneath stuff. It just doesn't happen.
I think
Right, but
go on. I'll go after you, John.
I was just going to say, but maybe the trick of it is to get people in that mathematical reference frame, because space is really their bread and butter, right? They want to put you in a place outside of the Earth where you can look back down on the Earth, right? Whether it's turning together or it's, as long as it's turning and you're in space looking at it, maybe that's the real key to the trick.
That's when they'll tell you things like hurricanes definitely move 100% straight. When you put them in that type of inertial reference frame, yeah, it doesn't work very well for them. But that, I think it's that simple, right? Those 2 points that Nathan was talking about before, it's been my point for years, right? It would just be that simple to claim that, oh yeah, the stars are moving because of Coriolis. Why? Because I get off the Earth and two things should happen. The star should stop moving and the Earth should start. None of those things happen.
100 people watching. Shout out to the Arc Ash, who sends me a super sticker, says keep it up. Thank you very much indeed. Please share the show. Massive warm welcome to all of you who've come, presumably because there's other people who are regulars that have shared the link out. But yeah, warm welcome to you. Please share the show if you've not done so already. Thank you very much. Let's get it to 150 people watching. Go ahead, whoever that was.
But the reason I'm detailing that is because it's the same trick, right? If you can get someone outside of the Earth, whether you're asserting the Earth is rising up or you're asserting it's turning, if you can get them into that space that doesn't exist to look at the Earth, you're halfway there to tricking them.
Yes, John. Because technically, Coriolis effect is not doesn't have a natural phenomenon. It only has an induced thing. You can induce it, but it's not a natural phenomenon. The only natural phenomenon they had was supposedly the star has been stationary, but we think we're moving, rotating. But that's been proven to be false. Because they had, and why they don't talk about that is because they have to convolute everything with how you don't see it in an airplane. Because when airplanes turned up, they found out, hot air balloons, they found out that, hang on, the Earth is not rotating underneath us. So this is why you never hear about the stars, being apparently moving. They have to convolute it all the way because there is no natural phenomenon. The natural phenomenon was heliocentric.
Right. But if you can get someone to, like, if you're trying to prove Narnia and you can get someone to imagine themselves in Narnia, you are halfway there to convincing them that Narnia exists.
Exactly.
But that's why I asked that question, because they've already, according to their narrative, they've already put something outside of Earth, right?
That's where I'm about to go. I'm about to go there. Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
No.
Nah.
Okay, I want you all to check this out. So over the last few days, I like movies. I'm a big movie fan. Got lots and lots of them on my hard disks. A lot of them space in nature. However, while watching
Total Recall?
Go on, whoever's decided right in the middle of that sentence they need to talk.
I was just trying to predict Total Recall. No? Okay. Continue. Sorry.
Thank you. I needed your permission, Eli. Really good to have you. So the channel that I'm about to promote has got a really limited number of subscribers. I don't know if he's part of a bigger outfit or if this is just his way of showing his green screen ability. But I came across him because he'd done a frame-by-frame remake of the Ed 209 scene where he's introduced in RoboCop. But they did it with in RoboCop, right? But they were a really crummy background with the machine that they pull all the wires out made of cardboard, and the gun made of cardboard, and the big boss of the OCP Corporation there with a puppet. He's a stick puppet. So it's really
Dick
cheesy,
Jones.
right? Very, very funny. But I was like, oh, I like this. I'll see what else they've got on the channel. Now, a lot of it was him promoting himself as a VFX artist, but let's just share this link. So this is, oh, I already have. So it's going by in the live stream chat now, but just subscribe to this guy because, number one, I think he's got a good sense of humour. But it's called Ghost Lite is the name of the YouTube channel. So, as I say, there's a link going by to his channel now, and you can check out that RoboCop video if nothing else. I thought it was very funny. And this is something else that I shared with everyone else in the Master B Skype chat. So what we've got on screen now, just so you can see, I'll make it a little bit bigger, is this guy doing VFX shots by changing the orientation a la Kubrick and then doing the motion on office wheelie chairs. So check this out. Isn't that epic? So he's just reorientated the camera by 90 degrees, put a wheelie office chair underneath her, filmed it behind a green screen, and then edited out the office chair.
It's very effective, very practical.
The simplest ones are always the most amusing. Anyway, I just thought you'd all enjoy that. This video is
I seen this morning.
had someone put a fire sign on it. I don't know who was watching it this morning, but yeah, somebody liked it from the chat. This is called The Encounter Space VFX, and the YouTube channel is Ghostlight. So I'm going to give him a like because I thought that was brilliant. Anyway, check it out if you want to. Hopefully someone else will put a link to his, Divergent Droid has done. Yep, go and check it out. Give him a like. Let him know, as always, although it's very positive in this instance, at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Give the guy a like. Hopefully it'll boost him in the algorithm. He's got less subscribers than me. For that kind of work, I'd expect you to have a lot more than under 4,000 subscribers. So hopefully you can all give him some love and subscribe to his channel. Like I say, based on the RoboCop thing, definitely worthy of a subscription. So there we go.
It's crazy because you could still see wires in NASA shit. This is even better than NASA. That's the crazy part, that people get fooled by NASA. It's like it's almost like sometimes they're not even trying.
They do
Kinda
the
like they're
harnesses.
just giggling at you.
Yeah, they use. You need to check out Dilly Gill, DILLY space GILL. That's Dilly Gill YouTube channel, where he breaks down the various reasons, whys, and wherefores of the different techniques that they use. To coin his phraseology, NASA are on the cutting edge of cinematography. Now, when Kubrick needed lenses for Barry Lyndon to film under candlelight, he got them from NASA. Because they are on the cutting edge of cinematography, not Hollywood. Anyway, they underplay their hand, they do things that are very low-key, so that you're not suspicious. In fact, they aim to bore you, as was highlighted once in a Simpsons episode, where Bart and Homer fight over the remote because the batteries have fallen out during launch. And the announcer saying, "On board today we have a mathematician, a statistician, and another mathematician." And they're all going, "No, get the remote, change it," because it's so boring. Anyway, the point is, what they're doing in terms of the high wire is required because they need to show people that they are doing it live. It's a live link-up technique that they use for the most part when they're on trapeze or high wire, whatever you want to call it. Now, they do that from crapo vision, several meters away in front of an audience with a TV screen and a couple of hosts. And they're doing the live link-up questions with the hosts fielding the questions, because of the delay, of course, to crapo vision shot from a second camera that doesn't reveal the ceiling. And then they do post-production on a much better, higher resolution camera image that does include the ceiling, that they cut out and CGI in after the fact and remove any glare from any wires. But from 30 feet away in an audience studio on a tiny little plasma monitor or LCD monitor, you're not going to notice that they're sat on high wire. Whereas in the post-production, you can make it all look tunnely like they did in their post-production that I just showed you. You can add the ceiling thereafter rather than take away the wheelie chair, this bit. But when you're dangling talking to a live studio audience, as was shown by Dilly Gill, and then the post-production bit that comes out 2 or 3 days later is a slightly different angle that suddenly includes the ceiling, you just know how the magic trick's being done. But if they're going to be asked to spin around because they're in 0G, they need to be able to do it on the fly if they're doing a live link-up.
I'm not sure why they didn't just hire like all the kung fu actors that do all the wire stuff, because I mean I've seen some kung fu wire work from the 70s, late 70s, early 80s. That's better than some of the NASA shit. Maybe they need to get those
I'll
guys
tell you
to
why.
train them.
What do you think is a more important prerequisite for an applicant to go up to space? Or let's put it differently. If you wanted to send an actor to Narnia, which is, wink, wink, absolutely real, isn't it, chocolate? Do you think it would be more important that...
It is.
Of course it is chocolate between you and I right now having this discussion. Would you think our applicant to go to Narnia, which is going to be more important? The ability to withstand some, let's just make any old crap up that occurs in Narnia. The very low oxygen levels, isn't there? There's very low oxygen levels in Narnia. And in order to be able to survive that, like the children did with their very healthy lungs, yeah, we're going to need someone super fit. So therefore, chocolate, which is more important, that the person be super fit or understand, wink, wink, that they're going to Narnia? Which do you think's more important?
I would say if you're going for authenticity, we'll go for both. But in your example, yeah, let's make sure we're going to Narnia.
Yeah.
I get you.
All of the astronauts are liars. There's very few people in this field that we can just point out and go, you are a liar. Descended from a liar? Your dad was a liar. Astronaut, you say? Liar. Lied to you, lied to me, lied to the world. Because there is no space, there is no Narnia, and saying that you've been in an area that would violate a natural law, vacuum, of space, would be to say that the gas we are breathing could vacate into that area that these people claim to have been in. They're just liars. We'd all be dead.
And by proxy, there is no heliocentric inertial reference frame for them to claim Coriolis.
Indeed. Good tangent. Well done. For them to be observing us in the way that they mathematicize a second inertial reference frame for you to look down on Earth spinning beneath you is the area of second law of thermodynamics violation, sky vacuum, that we also fondly disseminate when we describe people who claim to have been there as liars. No, you can't have been to a violation of the second law of thermodynamics area of volume that gas is not filling. Gas would be filling it. You claim you can go there, so would gas that's moving at a high velocity into every area of volume it can fill. It's just not filling it, but you're going to it, are you? Liar.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to tie those two subjects together. I'm glad you did it for me.
No, you did it beautifully. It wasn't me that tied those two together. You can't be looking back at Earth for it to be a non-inertial turning reference frame with you observing it from the inertial reference frame of space when space is Narnia. Good tie. Love it. 102 people watching. Please share the show.
I still say it would have been more fun if they got Donnie Yen and Jet Li to be astronauts.
I didn't make out a word of that. One more time, chocolate.
I said I still think it would have been more fun to get like Donnie Yen and Jet Li to be astronauts, because they would have pulled off the wire work much, much better.
Yeah, I mean, there's a point that you shouldn't have someone like Tim Peake on a high wire if he's not capable of making sure it's strapped up tight enough so he doesn't slip in the harness when he spins around. Well, that kind of lax attitude to the job would probably be overcome by somebody who was trained in harness work like me, like somebody who went to performing arts school, somebody who was really, really fastidious in doing their job correctly when it came to the harness, because that's what they did. Like when people are getting Neo to fly through the air, right? You don't see any harness slips, do you? Right? But Tim Peake, he's probably not got that quality. He's got the quality that he knows, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, we're going to be doing wire work, not going to space. So that's the bit that's important here. You know what I mean?
But that's the part that I find so like ridiculous, because look how actors will train to be to for their roles, right? Like certain martial art, like even you, like you said, Neo. Look how Keanu Reeves trains. Look how all these actors, Tom Cruise, they train to do these things,
Yeah.
so that
But,
when in production, it comes off looking good.
yeah, but you know the
You would
scene
think
when
with a
I know it's
budget
within.
like
I know
NASA
you're talking
has.
about between the filming and the actual end result, but in the movie, in the Matrix, when Neo's talking to Morpheus and he's having a fight and he's standing doubled over, going, and he goes, "You think that's air you're breathing?" Right? Well, it's akin to Tim Peake going, "Bloody hell, it was really difficult today in zero gravity," and the production manager from the sideline going, "Do you think that's zero G? You're in a harness."
No, actually, it actually plays in their favor, because if you have professionals doing what we know to be high wire work, or what the public knows to be high wire work, when the astronaut who's not good at it does it, it looks like they're just in zero
Oh,
gravity.
they're the amateur.
No, they're experiencing something different, because look at this guy doing high wire work. That's high wire work. This over here, that's something else. It can't be the same thing.
No, I've looked it up actually. We're all going to look really stupid now. There is actually a justifiable reason for it. Gravity.
But if you're used to seeing like professional stunt people do it, right? And then you have this guy on TV that claims to be in a place that doesn't exist, doing something that's kind of like it, but not quite. You know, it's maybe a little bit easier to let that
I
what do you call
understand.
that?
What you're saying is, when you know that Neo is God in the Matrix and he is perfectly fluid in his motion, then that is the expected standard of a god within a machine, when he can have he's got full control over the constraints of what he's operating in. You expect it to be fluid. When it's your normal Joe or your normal Tim, it's your normal Tim, and he's just up there and he happens to jolt around a bit while he's doing his somersault, well, then you can forgive him. Well, that's exactly correct. Again, back to Dilly Gill. They play their hand very close to their chest. They're not getting him to fly up and do some maintenance on the inside of the machine. They're just getting him to do a somersault.
The problem is these people aren't supposed to be normal. They're supposed to be the best of the best, aren't they?
Exactly.
They're the heroes. They're the heroes that kids are looking up to while they're in their khakis and a tin can and a freaking second law of thermodynamics violation, moving at 17,500 miles per hour.
I like
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
I like the disappointment arc of the story that would be the real story, though. You know, so you said best of the best. So you imagine, right, you've got 20 men and women. They're all lined up against the back of the aircraft hangar with some really snazzy looking equipment in the back, right? The doors are fully open, the sun's shining through, and then the sergeant or whatever he is with the reflective sunglasses comes out and says, "Men, women, you've been brought here because you're the best. Not just the best,
Exactly.
the best of the best. Some of you are going to go away from here having not succeeded, but some of you are going to go to space." And then at the end of that arc, they've gone through the full montage. You've got the full dun 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 dun. They're going through the full Rocky montage. And at the end of it, they're letting them go one by one. And you end up with Tim Peake at the end of it. Congratulations, son.
Exactly.
Hold on. But see, because of what you just, the best of the best, right? So you got Bruce Lee, he's the best of the best on high wire. He looks like this. Well, when we have the best of the best in space, they don't look like that. You see, I think it's part of the illusion itself.
I don't think, I mean, man, look, as long as the symptom isn't addressed, like all of this stuff is secondary. And people will get tricked, whether it's good wire tricks, bad wire tricks, because you know what? This is here to reinforce the fallacious reasoning everyone bought into. It wouldn't even matter if people knew the right questions to ask.
Well, yeah, we know that. That's why we asked the question before we went into it. But the I think that the bad high wire acting actually plays in their favor, because if they were doing it like the professionals do, because they're supposed to be professionals. So there's a disconnect in people's minds between someone doing it on high wire and someone in a place that doesn't exist doing it.
Maybe I'm slightly biased because I've watched martial arts movies all my life. So maybe to me maybe that's why I'm a little bit biased to this, but I don't think so, man. Like it's one of those reasons why I started looking at this, like saying, wait a minute, that doesn't look right. Because it looks like shit. It's not because it looks so dope that
Well, that's how
I
you
can
know
be fooled.
that's
If
how
it
you
was
know it's
exactly
real chocolate. It looks so fake.
Nah, if it was exactly the same, people would have clued in on it a long time ago. You know how I knew? Like here's the thing that undid the delusion for me. There are no pictures from space. How did I know? Because I only had one reference to work with. So if their wire tricks were exactly the same as the ones in movies, that would have been a higher alarm than it being what it is, which is why it has to suck or has to be different than what we're already used to here on, well, I mean, what we're already used to.
Well, that's why they're leading the way. So when Dilly Gill says that they are at the cutting edge of cinematography, it has to be that way. They have to be ahead of the game when they're showing you a parabolic maneuver. You can't be fully aware of what a parabolic maneuver is and experiencing it there and then because you've got a ticket for one. When they're showing you that as the zero-G effect inside a claim to be space station, for instance, you can't know about how they would use a camera angle difference or eat a dinner in space. You can't know how that cinematography is being done. That has to be filtered down rather than worked its way up. Because as you say, if you were aware of how they managed to create, if Gravity came before the ISS, the movie Gravity came before the ISS, you'd immediately know what was what. But because NASA are going to continually evolve their cinematography techniques ahead of Hollywood, you will always see their current material in the light that outshines the Hollywood fakery that follows it, because they're being led by NASA, not the other way around. It has to be that way. They have to be on the cutting edge of cinematography.
You did make a distinction between the two. How do you know that they're different organizations?
Just by output, by their fruit. In other words, even if you were to say that they are the same entity, that is to say, John's speculating that Hollywood and NASA are one and the same entity. Well, maybe they are, but their output is the same. Is different. In other words, you can say that a Lexus is the same as a Toyota. Well, yeah, they're fundamentally built by the same people in the same factories. It's just a different badge. But we've just given them two different names because they're two different things. And you can categorize them separately, even though, strictly speaking, they aren't. It's just a marketing ploy in the case of Toyota. And in this instance, it might just be a public perception thing when they're actually the same. It doesn't really make any difference. Their outputs are subtly different. NASA are ahead of Hollywood in terms of their abilities with cinematography. And that is borne out when you see someone like Kubrick borrowing NASA equipment because they can't achieve the result NASA can with the lenses that they have in Hollywood's disposal. NASA, on the other hand, can achieve extremely low light level capture with their lenses, so Kubrick borrowed them from NASA for Barry
Right.
Lyndon.
Right. So the part of NASA downplaying their hands, and the reason that Elon Musk can say it, it's real because it looks so fake, is the way they try to distinguish themselves from Hollywood.
I'm still waiting for the finding of the lost footage of the building of the ISS, because I would think that that'd be something you'd want to capture.
Yeah, you'd
If
think
you
it'd
were
be
able
something
to
that
build a tin can in space while in space.
right, you'd think it would be something that they'd have endless hordes of telescope salesmen out there trying to convince you to go and watch it being built if there was actually something to be looking at.
Yes. Yep. While it's happening in real time, you know how crazy that would be? That everybody could just go outside and watch. Look what we're achieving. We're building something in
No,
space while moving around the Earth at 17,000 miles an hour.
More than
Yeah,
that.
there definitely
More than
would
that.
have been an influx
Hold on.
of sales.
More than that. Do you remember, if you were old enough, when you went to the cinema and saw Superman for the first time, and you saw Superman on the big screen flying out above the globe, and then back down again, through the atmosphere and second law of thermodynamics violation,
Yep.
black bit of space? Well, if you were to experience the manufacture of a space station, whatever it may be, to fill the void that light that doesn't comport with the heliocentric orbital motion that we call the ISS, when you're explaining that, yeah, if you were to realistically look up and see it, you would be seeing what would be akin to a god, a man flying in the sky. Just flying
Yes.
around, building his machine in the sky. That's what you'd be watching.
Exactly.
Superman.
Well, I'm waiting for them to find the technology that they lost. That they used in 1969.
It's with the footage.
Let's put a point out. That's what I think. Point.
It's with the footage, bro.
No, they've got a reasonable explanation for that. Right, I've looked into this. As it happens, back in the 60s and 70s, the film stock that they used to film the moon landings, that was really, really expensive. Do you remember when you had a VCR and you filmed your wedding on it, but the A-Team was on while you were out, and what choice did you have? You had to film over the top of your wedding footage. You'd watched it several times. You weren't going to see that A-Team episode again. So you put your timer on, you put your film in, and it did just record over that very important wedding video. But what are you going to do? VHS was very similar in technology to the type of tape that they were using back then, and it was really, and I do mean really, expensive, even by NASA standards. So essentially, they just taped over it.
Well,
Yeah,
the
that
footage
checks out.
is over, but the technology they lost.
It takes a very long time to build that technology
they
back.
destroyed, according to their words,
It's
destroyed.
a painful process.
Yeah, we lost that technology in the 60s and 70s, and, you know, very hard to build it back up. Like, imagine a wardrobe, right, with very old doors and old hinges that you can go through, and when you work your way past the fur coats in the wardrobe, there's another world called Narnia on the other side of it. Well, now imagine that it's, you know, several years later, that wardrobe is going to have suffered the effects of entropy, the hinges have now fallen off, the portal's now closed, and it's very difficult to get that technology back again.
Yeah, the company that built it isn't in existence anymore.
Indeed. Right, quick public announcement with 100 people watching. This would normally be where the show is rounded out, or there or thereabouts within maybe 5 or 10 minutes. But what I'm going to do, as I'm very low in confidence with my hardware updated computer, as I've spent an entire weekend faffing and fiddling and watching it crash over and over again. Not unexpected with new equipment, so I'm not that stressed, but talking of being stressed, the computer needs to be, just to make sure it can actually withstand any sort of work being done while we're live. So up until now, I've pressed no buttons. I've done nothing other than bring chat up on my little Stream Deck box, so we can thank people like Jardo for his super chat. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, Jardo. If God has built the ISS, he wouldn't have put all the critical infrastructure on the outside. Right on. Oh, that's just part of the absurdity when they're laughing at you, so they can go outside and repair things that constantly need maintenance. Yeah, in the pool that they claim is outer space. But anyway,
That's almost like a
finish my announcement. I'm
Spaceballs
nearly there.
thing.
I'm nearly there. So what I'm going to do in a moment, when we reach about the hour mark in a few minutes' time, is pretend that we're going to do an outro, announce that we're going to be ending the live show, strictly speaking, but I won't. I'll carry on live, so you can stick around if you want to. All I'll be doing is putting the computer under a bit of stress while it's live, because this is the most demanding thing that this particular computer does. So I'll just make that, or make you aware of that when it happens. But yeah, we've got a few minutes left in the meantime.
I have a video to review, a very good one. If you're interested in doing that,
Oh,
I don't know if you want to do that.
At the 4 minute before the normal outro sort of time, as I'm saying I'm going to be doing other things. Oh yeah, that's just perfect timing.
Okay, fair enough.
What was it? Go on. It's not Master B. I don't see it.
I'll get the video for you now. 1 second.
Okay.
It's Sabine Hosselfelder. Remember Sabine? 1 second now, I'll just get it up here.
She's a lovely fellow.
Harvey
How could we
Hossenfelder.
forget, dear Sabine?
Where's it gone to? Hang on a second now. It's Skype is jumping around on me here. Um, sorry, give me a second to just get the. It's Sabine Hossenfelder for the third time, and she's covering the second law of thermodynamics. And I sent it to Kiwi, and he was like absolutely gobsmacked at the nonsense that she comes out with.
Okay, so this is the video. We're going to put a link to her video, Share the Love, algorithmically speaking, with Sabine, and let her know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me by clicking on the link that will be whizzing by any moment in the chat. Hopefully it'll be spammed by one of my moderators. But check it out. Let her know that we've responded to her video. We will kick off the end of this normally outro with a game playing by doing a video. Excellent. Why not?
What do you do?
What we do.
This isn't just what
real quick,
exhausted parents say, it's a property of nature. Life requires structure. The human body, for example, isn't just a bag of mixed atoms. The atoms are ordered. They're in very specific places, like organs and stuff.
Okay, fair enough. Go on, Chocolate.
I was just curious. Is this a new video? What's the date on this, Brian? I'm just curious.
A month old, I think.
Yeah, so
Huh.
it came out 1 month ago. The video is called I Don't Believe the Second Law of Thermodynamics, full stop, open brackets. The most uplifting video I'll ever make, full stop, close brackets. That's the name of the video by Sabine Hossenfelder, and it's been shared. Go and check it out. Let her know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me.
Look, what do I know? I'm a physicist, not a physician.
Ugh.
Physics doesn't tell you much about life, but it tells you that entropy can't decrease. And as entropy increases, order gets destroyed. This is why things break, why we age, and why the universe will eventually become a big disordered.
It's not a why. You're halfway there to ascribing it as a cause. No, it's not why those things occur. It's a description of their occurrence. That's wrong.
I see why she, disagrees with it because she doesn't even know what it is. Talking
Back of-
about order to chaos kind of situation then.
She also said that physics don't tell us much about life. They tell us a lot about it. I wouldn't say it doesn't. Physics don't tell us much about it. That's kind of what it does.
What is physics? What does physics mean?
Physical.
The
The
physical,
physical, the world.
right? Doesn't tell us much about the physical.
Mixed particles. At some point, life in the universe will become impossible. That's kind of depressing. But is it right? What does physics...
Hold on. How does describing things moving towards an entropic equilibrium doesn't make life harder? It's just describing how we observe things to occur. What that she's just detailed is a speculation based on the logical inference after describing what entropy is. So that's a consequence of a fear, perhaps, you have based on the description of entropy. But it isn't part of entropic descriptions, what she's just given you.
I bet you
That's why
she
they
could
like
not.
to call it heat death. They literally call it death.
Well, heat death is part of what is it? Is it In a Brief History of Time? But again, you're talking about a consequence, a speculation about the consequence at the end, where everything will reach entropic equilibrium. Now, there's further speculations about things then going in reverse, the big crunch, all those sorts of crazy notions. But they're all based on the speculation after assessing and describing how things occur always. But that description of how things occur always, in this instance, what's occurring in terms of entropic decay, as she calls it, reasonable. That's what the second law is, just a description of that process, the arrow of time. But she's incorporating her fears in regards to a fairly reasonable logical inference that you could draw about the end when that process reaches its end. But it hasn't. You're just describing what's occurring now with the second law.
We can't hear the video in Discord.
Can't hear the video in Discord?
Right.
Oh, I know why. Let me just sort that out. Can you talk about yourself for a second, just while I change a couple of settings?
Yeah, I was going to address something that was said earlier, and I didn't get a chance to. Was somebody claimed heliocentric orbits? I would like evidence that orbits are a heliocentric concept.
Can I get a check from Discord, please?
All right, you gonna play the video?
No, I want to check the Discord works.
Yes.
You're in Discord, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, just give me 30 more seconds.
Physics really tell us about entropy increase. What's entropy to begin with? And how will everything end?
You hearing that?
Yes.
That's what we'll talk about today.
She's
I
put
like how
science.
entropy is
She's
the new
titled it.
hotness.
Go on, Chocolate. Sorry, I talked over you.
No, it's all good. I was just saying, it seems like that all the big wigs are making videos about entropy all of a sudden. Veritasium, this lady. It's like the new hotness all of a sudden. What's going on?
I think it's
But
directly
you-
causal with us. I take full responsibility. It's because of us.
I think it's just a YouTube thing. Somebody somewhere maybe got it from us, but everybody else is just picking up the topic because when you're in the same kind of topic discussion, like looking for content, you sort of just go with the top subject and you put your spin on it for monetization and things like that. Anyway.
Imagine you're driving through the rain. Drops fall onto your window, making little splashes. The street gets wet. You drive through puddles and realize that the wiper on your car really needs replacement. It sounds normal enough, but
I'm in exactly that position. My crappy old car needs new wipers. Please smash the super chat.
why
So
do we
do
never
I.
see what
Yeah, they're all streaky. It's downright dangerous, actually, for me.
to collect on the street to form drops which then fly into the sky and make clouds? Why do parts on your car break on their own but never repair themselves on their own? Physicists call it the
Why is she
error of
asking a
time.
why question?
Yeah. I'm glad I preemptively covered this. But yes, exactly. These are just descriptions. All entropy is second law of thermodynamics is just a description of how things occur.
And it's the reason
yeah.
why we get older.
Go on, John.
I was going to say, laws of nature are what is happening, right?
Yeah,
This is
Watson is.
yeah. So right. So this is happening. Why is she introducing why or how to that? It seems like she doesn't understand what those words mean, and that's
I can answer that.
horrifying to think.
Right, because you didn't maybe see on screen she had the word science, and then she went into another undertitle of physics. And as she's claiming to be a scientist, this is a pseudo-scientist stealing valor for the non-scientific descriptions of natural laws. So laws of nature aren't science. Let's just get that cleared up straight away so you understand why I'm doing this. So because they are well-established, understood descriptions that are accurate in respect to how things always occur in nature, these are laws of nature. They are not the establishment of a cause and effect relationship for the phenomena, in some instances, described within these laws of nature. They are just the description only of what is occurring. Therefore, they are not science. Now, Sabine, she's not science either. Not her as an individual, her as a phenomena or a phenomenal person. I mean, she isn't performing the method of science, therefore not a scientist, if you will. But she's so used to stealing the valor of science and the scientific method that she, unbeknownst to her, has also mistaken laws of nature as physics, aka science and the scientific method. Physics is the study of the physical and natural world. Under the umbrella of that is all of the sciences, without exception. If they're establishing the cause of a natural phenomena, they are, by definition, physics. Doesn't matter if it's medicine or biology, or it doesn't matter which branch off that. That's science, that's physics, she's not it. And neither are the natural laws. But being your typical pseudoscience pretender clown, not a physicist, not a scientist, she's going to now steal valor from the descriptions of how things occur always and call them science. Because somewhere along that there'll be a swindle for her descriptions in pseudoscience being the same as the, quote, science of the natural laws. So if the science of the natural laws is such that they just describe how things happen and look how accurate these are, then my description of gravity, for example, also sometimes falsely ascribed to being a law of gravity, is also just a description of how things occur always. See the switch? You invent something, call it science, and say how, likewise, a description of something that does genuinely occur always, in this case, the arrow of time or entropy, is just like my description of some bollocks I've invented. Because I say it's a law. Therefore, this is also science. Neither are science in this example with gravity and the second law of thermodynamics. Neither are physics, neither are science. They're just descriptions of things that occur. No establishment of cause has taken place. That's it, I'm done.
Yeah, and also I'd like to remind everybody that Newton didn't see like gravitation as a natural law or even as science. He disclaimed that it was simply a law within his mechanics. So it was more like a mathematical law.
Exactly what it was.
He never meant it to be physics.
Yeah, precisely, Arwin. That is exactly what it was. Anyway, let's carry on.
But never younger. Its origin has remained somewhat of a mystery. According to the equations that we use to describe nature, it's totally possible for people to get younger, or for water drops to fly up into the sky.
Okay. Do you want to show us how that's described within the arrow of time that is the second law of thermodynamics?
See, this is that shit we were talking about before. How like they like to say, "Oh, there's the ever so slightest possibility that entropy could actually decrease, but it won't happen." This is that not we've covered this shit before. This is hilarious.
The equations we've...
This is the symptom.
Go on,
Brian.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. All right. This is the symptom that I was talking about. As a matter of fact, I was going to jump in and say, yo, we got a video to do. It's a must do because, well, I don't want to, get too far away from the topic right now. But the point is, the reason that flat earthers are going awry is because they have the same logical framework that she does. That's what the problem is.
I agree.
Problem? What problem?
The belief that things are possible when it's been shown to be not possible.
All right, but there's a very, very slim chance. I mean, it's not like the entropic law doesn't describe the possibility of this happening. Ergo, it could happen.
found
Well, what she said there. Well, I'll go after you.
Sorry, Brian. No, I was gonna say I was trying to think who was saying it. We were covering it. It was Brian Cox when he was describing entropy. He said the same nonsense.
Yes. He went through.
She said.
Correct. Go on,
She said. She said there that the equations we use to describe entropy, was it entropy? She said, or describe reality or nature. Yeah. She said they allow us to state that there's no reason why it couldn't go in reverse. But that means your equations are wrong. They have to be. Because it can't go in reverse. That's the whole point.
That makes total sense.
It can only go the way. Yeah.
No. If you think about it, right, when you open your petrol tank and it says petrol only, or let's rephrase that slightly. You open your petrol flap and it says no diesel because it's a petrol car, right? Well, it doesn't say anywhere on that flap no electricity. So I mean, there is a slim chance that you could hook it up to a charger and the car will run after. It doesn't say anywhere that that couldn't happen, does it? On the flap. Doesn't say it can't
No.
happen. So there's a slim chance that it will work off electricity, isn't there? Because it doesn't say it can't.
Exactly. Yeah. That would mean that. Yeah. I mean, if that's what your equations are telling you, your equations have to be wrong, because their equations have to obviously leave a space open for the impossible to happen, because that's what their whole belief is. It's based on the impossible.
Both forward and backward in time. We say they're time reversible. We can totally write down an equation that makes water fly into the sky. In reality,
You could write down an equation for it. I mean, and the language sometimes for entropy would be mathematics to describe it. Okay, but just because you can write an equation in that language that says that things will completely defy the arrow of time doesn't mean they will happen, just because the description of the arrow of time doesn't say that they won't happen that way.
though, this doesn't happen. So what
So why the hell would you speculate that it would just because it says it, just because it doesn't say it won't?
gives? The reason is that to explain what goes on in nature, you don't just need an equation that tells you how things change. You also need
But that's what entropy is. It's in the most simplistic way, entropy describes change over time. That is the most concise description I can give for the second law of thermodynamics. Change over time.
what's called an initial
So
state.
it's not enough to just assess the change over time. So it's not enough to study entropy then. I see. Okay. But this is a video about how you don't believe in the second law of thermodynamics, but now you're stating how it's not enough to just study change over time. I see.
You need to know what changes. This initial state is the entire configuration of the system at any one moment in time.
No, not of the configured system, of the observed change over time.
For example, the positions and momenta of all particles.
Sorry, no. If they're being described in terms of their entropic distribution, then yes. In terms of your theory in maths of what you will now describe particles as, perhaps no. We'll find out.
You take this initial state and then you calculate what it does. Physics basically comes down to the unforgettable TikTok, I had an initial state and guess what happened next.
No, describing what actually occurs is the second law of thermodynamics when describing what you call decay, the arrow of time, change over time. What it will be applied to would also be ascribable within the second law. It's not just that oversimplified description I gave. There's far more to it than that. When you get into microstates, for example, the distribution of the probability within the microstates is quite complex. But again, just using the mathematical language that we all know and love to give us the description of change over time with a specific example in mind, that is still just a description of something occurring. It's definitely not science. It definitely isn't physics. It doesn't matter how you model something in terms of its start and end point that you postulate, when the second law is just describing how things occur always. Shout out to Vlad on Flat Earth. Greetings from the beach. Oh, he's on the beach. Lucky old you. Greetings from the beach. Have a great day, everyone. Well, you certainly will be. You're on the beach. Thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Vlad on Flat Earth.
The thing is now that there are a lot of initial states that'll make water drop down from the sky, but very few that'll make it flow back up. To get
It won't. It'll evaporate. You know, that's part of entropy in terms of that as a cycle. It's still going through the process of entropy each time. It's still subject to the same exact natural law in terms of how the gas, the puddle, will heat up, break its bonds, and then dissipate into an availability of volume. That would be the entropy described for gas dispersion, in this case water vapour. Not clouds, Brian.
this done, you'd have to very precisely arrange all the molecules in the ground to spit the water back out and the molecules in the air to create just the right drift for the drops to fly back up.
That's not what happens. The second law of thermodynamics would be describing the dispersion of the gas into the volume. So you think because it doesn't not describe it turning back into a water droplet and going back up again, that's a possibility? No, it isn't, because you've got a very concise description of gas dispersion within the second law of thermodynamics. Change over time. The change being how much the gas has dispersed into the availability of volume. We use that to debunk outer space. So the gas, in line with entropic law, disperses into the volume it has available to it. And if the sky was an availability of volume, then the gas, that's water vapour, would disperse into the sky vacuum, leaving us with nothing to drink or breathe. Now, you take that to mean that it doesn't say that it won't turn back into a water droplet and go in reverse. No, but it does describe the entropic effect of dispersion of gas. Water would be one of those gases in this example. But you're telling us how it can turn back into a water droplet. Gotcha, Sabine, you crazy, nonsense, spurting idiot.
What she's stating there would be that a beach ball filled with air might stink in water. That's what she's stating there, because the raindrop comes down through a medium that's not dense enough to give it any resistance, to give it adequate resistance to keep it up there.
That's right.
The raindrop falls through air. So
not enough support, right, Brian?
Sorry?
Not enough structural support.
Well, there's not enough a density resistance, let's call it.
Yes.
There's no resistance enough to stop it. So it comes down to reach something that has the resistance. Yeah. But if I blow up a beach ball and I throw it into a swimming pool, she's saying it's possible that sometime that beach ball might go down to the bottom.
Sorry, Brian,
won't.
the second law of thermodynamics does not in any way describe a scenario where the ball isn't prevented from not sinking when it's full of air. Therefore, there's a very slim possibility that a ball filled with air placed on top of water might go down. I mean, it doesn't say it won't, does it?
Yeah, let's just ignore the whole reality
What
thing.
the hell is her
Ignore
point
that.
in all of this? Like, where is she going with this, yo? It's just-
It gets crazier.
It's so incredibly unlikely it never happens. Physicists.
So you're saying that a description of something that occurs always includes your nonsense batshit assertion that it not describing something that doesn't ever occur but is extremely unlikely could occur because it doesn't explicitly say that it won't. Okay, we're with you.
Quantify this probability with entropy. Entropy is a measure for how...
So we're going to be quantifying that probability with a description of things that occur always. Well, no, the description of things that have occurred always and will always occur always, in this case, the gas cycle from water, liquid in form, to gas in form, would be applicable with dispersion and entropy, second law of thermodynamics. But you're saying we're going to take this probability description that you've just invented and pulled out your ass and put that through the description of entropy. No, the description of entropy is just describing how things occur always, as opposed to how it will contrast to your very unlikely, never to be occurring water going back up as bloody water droplets. Okay.
How likely a system is to be in a certain configuration.
No, entropy describes how things occur always.
Suppose you have a box and there's air inside. The air is made of molecules that move around. It's very unlikely that they all sit on the right side of the box.
But if the box was open, they'd all escape. So without the box, no bouncing air molecules. Well, that's the end of outer space, isn't it, Sabine? Someone's rumpusing my very cogent point. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. It's just we've had a lot of people tell us how it would all go to one side of the box, namely the bottom. That's pretty funny. She just debunked that. Thanks, Sabine.
Yes, she just debunked outer space. Highly unlikely it would all go to one side of the box. So we need a box to contain the gas, unlikely for it to coalesce in one part of the box. Okay, so what if there was no box? You're saying it would all spread out, like entropy describes. Dispersion, like I've just described. Not the lack of probability for raindrops forming back into rain and going back up to the clouds as a drop rather than as a gas dispersing, like entropy describes. But we'll see where she's going to go with this. Because it's going to be stacked up against the non-probability of things that never occur.
Well, 1 second. It's what she said that gives the game away. She said it's highly unlikely. No, it's impossible.
Oh, I see. Oh, I see. So it's highly unlikely that the gas particles would all coalesce in one side of the box, but entropy doesn't explicitly say that it won't when it describes it spreading out. So therefore it might.
If that was so, the entropy would be small. It's very likely that they are almost evenly distributed in the box. The entropy in this case would be large.
So entropy is describing how it spreads out from a high entropic state to a low entropic state, correct?
So what's going to happen if you put air in only one side of a box? Well,
You can't. You know, you can introduce a gas to a container and it'll just spread out.
it's going to spread out because
Yeah.
that's the likely thing to happen.
That's the end of outer space. So Sabine Hosselenfelder has just debunked outer space by demonstrating that if you introduce gas to an availability of volume, then the gas will spread out all over the availability of volume that the gas has presented to it. Now let's imagine that this area here, just for my example, is 25 billion light years across. So from here to here is the biggest space you can possibly imagine. Now let's imagine that right in the middle of it is a tiny little teeny weeny dot called Earth. Okay, we all clear what my example's going to be. This is space, the white bit, and this is what gas would do around an Earth in a sky vacuum.
Case would be large.
It would be introduced from whatever the source of the gas is, and then it would spread out throughout the entirety of the volume the gas has available to it to fill. So the gas, if where my mouse pointer is currently pointing, that was claimed to be around Earth without containment, it would just do this. Bounce around throughout the entirety of the volume of space. It wouldn't stick around the dot in front of my mouse pointer, because that's not what gas does. Ergo, outer space, the sky vacuum where the liars that are called astronauts claim to go, is bunk. Gas would fill the space.
Is going to remain approximately
Unlikely.
even. And luckily, so
Unlikely.
Go on, Brian.
Sorry, I came in the middle, but I thought you had just finished your point.
That's okay, go ahead.
She likes to use words, it's highly unlikely or likely, instead of the words impossible and not possible. She said it's likely if I introduce gas into one side of the box, it will fill the whole box. No, it's not likely. That is what it will only do. Not possible for it to not do it.
Yeah.
You would have to completely change the behavior of gas.
Right. The description of entropy describes what occurs always, and entropy is describing how that gas fills the space, because it's describing what always occurs. So it's not saying, here's my description of how we see things always occurring. It's highly likely that will happen. No. It's just a description of how things occur. But she's giving it in probability. No, it doesn't offer probability. Just describes how it occurs. In this instance, gas filling space.
You see, she has to leave the door open for heliocentrism. That's why she needs to use terms like likely and unlikely. It doesn't, likely and unlikely is not possible or impossible. It's likely or unlikely, because heliocentrism must come back, because that's what she believes.
because it would be inconvenient if you entered a room and all the air went into a corner.
Yeah, not only inconvenient, it would be devastating if the sky was a vacuum, because all of the gas would spread out throughout the availability of volume into the 10 to the minus 17 claimed to be sky vacuum that you say space is. Well, no, gas would fill the space. It would distribute evenly.
We call such an approximately even distribution an equilibrium. It's not that the air molecules stopped moving when they're in equilibrium, they're still zipping around, but on the average, the distribution stays the same for a very long time. Physicists talk about entropy not just to confuse people on YouTube.
Sorry, no. Physicists, people who are dealing with physics, would be establishing cause and effect relationships for natural phenomena they observed in the physical world that they experience, and hopefully coming up with the answers for what caused those natural phenomena. That's what physicists do. That's under the branch of science. This, on the other hand, this would be a description of things that occur always. These are natural laws. So when you say physics, physicists don't use the natural laws to confuse people. No, that would be counterintuitive because they're descriptions to help you understand how and what is occurring when you describe what is occurring. Just the description of what is occurring. That's it.
Here comes the convolution, right?
But
Because what she just said wasn't confusing to anybody. She just described reality. With gas molecules in a box, it's gonna fill the box, right? But here comes the convolution where now that's going to change depending on what she's going to be talking about, which is, I'm sure, heliocentric nonsense where it doesn't do that. So here it comes.
It has practical purposes. If you have a system with small entropy, you can do work with it. In physics, work means useful energy. You can do something with it. For example, when the air is on one side of the box, you can put a divider.
Okay, so when the air is on one side of the box, no, if the air would have immediately dispersed into the availability of volume. Now, if you're suggesting that you've got a valve with a pipe and then you introduce a gas, the moment the valve's opened, the gas immediately fills the availability of volume.
In the middle, and the air pressure will move it.
No, you wouldn't be able to do that in that order. You'd have to introduce the barrier before you introduce the first gas. This seems like nonsense, where you can start with something highly unlikely and then introduce a barrier to stop it going into the other side of the box. This is all nonsense.
You could convert this motion to electric energy and then do something else with it. Charge your phone, power a light, drill a hole into the wall and ruin your neighbor's podcast recording. Every time you create structure, you do it by drawing on a reservoir of low entropy. When a system has reached equilibrium and the average remains the same, there's still energy in it because the molecules are still moving around.
Where's she going with this? What's the point of all this?
But it's not useful.
She's describing these things as is. But her title is, I don't believe the second law of thermodynamics. But yet when it comes to the actual descriptions contained within the second law of thermodynamics, she's describing them as is, as what they are, the descriptions of how things always occur. So if you've got a problem with it or you don't believe it, why are you referring to it in the context of it being how it is, when that's precisely what the laws of nature do, describe things as they are?
Energy.
Well,
You can't do...
Go on, Arwin.
Maybe the title was a hookup. It was like a false advertisement, like to get in, like, oh, you don't believe entropy? Well, here it is. And now she's describing it.
Oh, maybe.
Work anymore.
Go on, Brian.
Saying give it time, things get crazier.
Oh, I see. You're just saying don't judge it yet.
Physicists call this useless energy heat. Formally, entropy measures the number of microstates per macrostate. A microstate is the exact definition of the state of the system. For the molecules in the box, that could be the positions and momenta of each of the particles. A macrostate, on the other hand, is a state that we as macroscopic objects are interested in. For our box, that could be how many molecules are on the left and how many are on the right side.
Okay. I mean, I don't disagree so far with the description. Anybody have any issue with it so far? Because so far, like I say, she seems to be sitting in line with mere descriptions of the second law, which are reasonable.
Of the box. A macrostate is an average over many microstates. If you want to know the entropy, you then ask how many possible ways there are for the air molecules to zip around so that there are approximately the same number on each side.
The number of available microstates. Yeah, perfectly reasonable.
Answer is, there are a lot of those, so that...
We need to know the number of available microstates. There's a lot. Oh, that's very... I mean, you're concise.
It's likely, and the entropy...
But you see what she didn't say?
What?
It depends on the size of the container.
Right.
That depends on how many microstates there are.
Right, your V.
is large. If they're all on one side, there are far fewer ways to get this done, so that's unlikely and the entropy is small. Technically, the entropy is the logarithm of the number of microstates multiplied by a constant called Boltzmann's constant. If you remember one thing about the logarithm, it's probably that the logarithm of 1 is 0. This means the entropy is 0 if and only if there is exactly one microstate for your macrostate.
You can't actually achieve that. I mean, that may be the case in the maths. You can't reach a zero state, entropically speaking. There's no describable heat death. There's no describable end to that process of entropy. Equally, we can't know the beginning either.
Okay, so why does entropy increase? Entropy increase.
Bloody good question. I'm going to pause at this point. That is the most pertinent question she's asked on this video so far. We're 6.5 minutes in. What is the cause of entropy? Good question. I wonder where she goes.
Increases because that's the likely thing to happen.
No, not because of likelihood, not statistical. It's a description of what actually occurs in nature. Always. So no, it's not a statistical likelihood. Now she's going to go to a maths. Immediate fail.
And that removes part of the mystery about the arrow of time, because it
doesn't remove any of the mystery, it describes it. The arrow of time itself, the entropic distribution of gas in this example, is just the description of the entropic distribution of the gas that we observed. It doesn't unravel anything in regards to speculation, logical it may be an inference for the future, or speculation, logical it may be an inference for the past. It just describes what occurs in front of you. That's it.
Explains why we observe some things and not others, even though the laws of nature work both forwards and backwards in time. Because
no, the arrow of time moves in one direction.
One way is more likely than the other.
There you go, Brian.
To say her equations.
Likelihood equations may go the opposite direction of the entropic arrow of time, which only moves in one direction, but it's just unlikely to move in the other direction that we never see ever. But it explicitly doesn't say it won't, so we've got a small likelihood that it will.
But we wrote down the equation, so therefore, there's a likeliness.
An egg that falls to the ground breaks. It doesn't jump up and unbreaks. All right, we sorted it out. But this brings up another question. If low entropy states like eggs are...
Sorry, that was the end of the statement. Hold on. So it doesn't do that. Okay, therefore arrow of time in one direction, Sabine. It doesn't unbreaks. Okay? Yeah, correct. Yeah, arrow of time in one direction. You drop the egg, it smashes, that's it. Yeah, you can physically give it a lower entropic state by putting your energy and time into the egg, gluing it back together. Yeah, that, strictly speaking, would lower its entropic state by way of your influence. But that isn't naturally occurring. Naturally, after you drop the egg, it's never going to unbreaks. It's just going to decay further, in line with the arrow of time moving in one direction.
Are unlikely.
No, it's not unlikely. It won't happen, arrow of time one direction.
Why do we have them to begin with? Why isn't the universe in equilibrium already when that...
But who cares when you're not describing the end, you're describing what occurs now. But your speculation about it might link into how it'll go backwards.
That's most likely.
Oh, it's how likely it is with the speculation, logical or otherwise, about the future that the entropic law doesn't describe. I see.
We don't know. We do know that...
So why the bloody hell are you asking about it? So when I'm taking the mickey out of you speculating about this crap that you have no idea about, you're going to disclaim that you don't know. Why even bother mentioning it then? What you have done is described how you drop an egg and that's it. Entropy has increased.
The universe must have started in a state of low entropy.
Must it? I mean, you can infer that, but all we can describe is what occurs always in our physical realm as we experience it now. But you're going to, what, infer that you've got a beginning? Yeah, that'll lead you to the ontological primitives. That's all that'll do. There is a God. Because you're not going to have your nature creating this process. Because that would violate the first law of thermodynamics.
a very unlikely state, but we have no idea why.
So again, why are you speculating? Given that you would say the Big Bang created it all, nature poofed itself into existence. But you've got no idea based on the entropic law? No, you're damn right you don't.
It's often called the past hypothesis.
Hypothesis would be the establishment of a cause and effect relationship by way of a physicist seeing something occur in nature. So if you're going to speculate that this is a hypothesis, then it would be the hypothesis for why things reach an entropic decay, as you call it. That would be the arrow of time. Why the arrow of time would be what you would slot into this, quote, hypothesis, because it would be a cause and effect relationship. We've definitely got an effect we can observe, describe occurring always, but the cause thereof has not been established. This is mere speculation.
Term introduced by the philosopher David Olbers.
I see, so philosophy and speculation as opposed to science and physics.
It just posits that this is what it was.
Posits? Yeah, in science you can posit what you suppose caused the effect. Then you vary it and see if it does or not. That's science though, love.
But it doesn't explain why.
No, you're damn right. Science would.
The entropy of our universe.
Jeranism, are you listening? This is a high-level claim to be scientist who we can take apart based on our lack of scientific acumen. Maybe if you are watching this, because I am hoping to appeal to Jaren's better nature in regards to his total ignorance of science and explain how science proves things. When this lady utilises the valour of science by suggesting that there is a, quote, hypothesis, it's because in the scientific method, the hypothesis establishes what you suppose will cause the effect you're studying in nature, so that you can go forth and vary that which you suppose causes the effect you observed in nature and see if it does or not. That's called an experiment. Now, she hasn't got that. Certainly hasn't got it for entropy, that's for damn sure. But she can speculate with her odds and her statistics about what could be biological inference and then call it a hypothesis, after disclaiming it came from a philosopher. Now, don't get on me in the comments about how science and the scientific method was disseminated originally by philosophers. It's irrelevant. The method itself is empirical, regardless of who came up with it, in this case, philosophers. But the method that she's saying she's got when she says hypothesis, she hasn't. She's only saying it because in the mind's eye of the public who hear it, it sounds like she's got something with empiricism attached to it. Now, back to the method that's been used for the descriptions of the laws of nature. There isn't any. There's no scientific method adherence when you describe something. You're just describing it. Now, while any village idiot can just describe something they see, there's a lot more nuance to the descriptions in the laws of nature, especially when it comes to things like gas dispersion, debunking your outer space fantasy. Meanwhile, she's juxtaposing this with odds and statistics so that she can incorporate things that will not happen based on the description within the law to have a probability of happening. Hey, Kiwi. Good to have you.
It's kind of pointless to consider any possibility when that possibility is always going to be zero.
Yeah,
Right?
arrows.
This is likelihood. Is that who we're on right now?
Yes.
Why is Lake Erie in the corner of Pennsylvania and not on my back? Well,
Hold
because it's
on.
more
That's
likely.
not fair. There's nothing in the laws that we'd use to describe our reality to say it won't be on your back, so there's a very slim possibility that it will be. Have you checked today?
What a clown she is. I told Brian when he gave me this video, I gave him a list of what should happen. Brian, do you have that list?
It's coming up. Oh,
Okay.
no, I'll open it up and I'll read it out. I was going to read it out later, actually.
All right.
Yeah,
Carry
they were
on.
very
well-
specific.
Is the timing wrong,
Very
Brian?
specific.
Do you want us to wait, Brian? Is the timing not quite right?
No, wait. This is the time.
Okay,
Here we
go
go.
ahead.
Right.
Go ahead.
Right. From QE, she needs to be 1, forcefully restrained. 2, straitjacketed. 3, rubber round. 4, administered horse and elephant tranquilizers without cessation. 5, 24-hour sword drawn guard. 6, forced lobotomized in perpetuity.
Now, if there were stars on a couple of those points, you had to go to the legend. The 24-hour sword drawn guard and the tranquilization without cessation was in perpetuity.
Yeah, I don't understand what the stars mean. I'm sorry.
Good. She's a clown, man.
So have we figured out what these asterisks are for or not?
That's what I said what they were for.
Oh, okay. Well, should we move on?
The legend was down below. It said, these in perpetuity. The ones that were starred. You want me to tell you what want me to tell you again?
Yes, but contextualize it for each one.
No. The starred one in perpetuity, the other criterion didn't have to be in perpetuity. It could be a one-time event. But in perpetuity would be the sword drawn guard and the elephant and horse tranquilization.
Just one question. What's perpetuity? I'm only kidding.
Come on, man.
I'm just joking.
woke up. Give me a break.
Let's move on.
Has been increasing ever since the Big Bang because that's what's likely to
Oh, whoa. Did she just beg the question of a first law of thermodynamics violation?
Yes.
happen. But this is the total entropy. In some parts of the universe, entropy can and does remain small for a very long time.
There's you. What, based on what? Your observation of some lights in the sky through a telescope? No, you'll be extrapolating that information out.
Because it doesn't have to be evenly distributed. Indeed, we can
No, it'll be following the arrow of time as described by the second law of thermodynamics.
shovel around entropy ourselves. If you have a reservoir of low entropy, you can use that to lower the entropy elsewhere. And luckily, we have a big low entropy reservoir nearby, though it's more commonly called the sun. The sun...
Hold on a second. So you're going to ascribe a heliocentric sun into the laws of entropy. See, that's fascinating, because I remember QE pointing out to me how part of the description of your heliocentric sun has a second law of thermodynamics violation built within it. Notwithstanding the fact that the whole notion of a gas ball burning in a sky vacuum is within itself a second law of thermodynamics violation, gas-filled space, and it's claimed to be a burning ball of gas in a vacuum, not dispersing. But beyond that, once we've got your gravity-induced nonsense of a sun burning as a ball of gas in the sky vacuum, according to your descriptions, when you back away from the sun, the heat output that is experienced by you, the person backing away from it, increases as you back away from the sun. Akin to, and this is QE's example, you standing quite close to a bonfire, 10 feet away, and a bit of wind picks up and you go, whoa, feel the heat off that. I'm going to step back. So you step back 10 paces further away from the bonfire and then spontaneously combust.
Yeah, you see this way she's trying to add in a low, basically called the sun, something of low entropy. What she's stating there is it's not, her gas giant is not, because that's what it is, it's plasma. It's not expanding out into the available volume.
Yeah, exactly. It should be following entropic law. If it's low entropy, all it wants to do in terms of the entropic description is move to a high entropic state. That would be to say that if it's a burning ball of gas in a sky vacuum, it just wants to burst out and fill that availability of space. Now, the other week we were describing, I can't remember if it was neutron stars or white dwarfs or whatever it was we were discussing. And the idea that once something has gone through the fission or fusion process to create all the heavy metals at the heart of the burning ball of gas that is a star, in this case the sun, it will eventually reach a point where it runs out of materials to fuse into, creating heavier and heavier elements as it does so. But at the end of that process, it then explodes, supernova, into an entropic line that sits in line with the law of entropy. That is to say that suddenly the burning ball of gas that was violating the second law of thermodynamics violation, as it fuses together to create heavier and heavier elements, is now following entropic law and exploding out into the known universe to deposit all of those elements into the rest of the worlds around us so that they can eventually form parts of our structures and become us. Hence our rocks are cousins, from Michelle Thaler. The reason she says that is because those rocks, quote, heavier elements, have been created in the hearts of dying stars, and when they go supernova, suddenly they decide that, oh, yeah, we're going to follow entropic law now. We're going to disperse. What? Dispersion, like second law of thermodynamics dispersion. Yeah. But only now we've formed all the heavier elements during our period of life that we violated that law. Now that we've come to the end of our life violating that law, we're going to follow that law to deposit all of this material into the galaxy, of course.
Oh, Nathan, but I'll keep it short, but I have an answer to that from a heliocentric perspective, how I learned it. And that is that normally when the sun isn't supernova yet, the gravity of it basically keeps the explosion in. But then when it becomes too much, then there's a split off. There's basically the explosion is the outer layer of the sun, while the inner layer implodes into potentially a black hole, right? It's the energy is so massive that entropy overcomes the gravity for a moment. That's why that happens.
Well, do you know what the actual official claim is concerning the sun? Because I've been looking into it, and I have looked into it. Is that the sun, right? Because it's a plasma, right? According to them, right? It creates its own toroidal field. That's what they have to claim to stop the plasma from, expanding out into their universe. Now, how does plasma create its own toroidal field? It can be affected by electromagnetism, but how can it create its own one? There's no example.
The
No.
explosion energy.
See, Brian, that's
so
laziness. Laziness. Didn't even do a Google search, did you? I did. And the answer is obvious. Gravity.
I said that. I literally said that, right?
Yeah,
What's
so you can use Google too. Me too.
I didn't use Google. I learned it
Oh, you
when I was
knew, smarty pants. You already knew it was gravity, even though it's the answer to every question on today's show.
young.
To answer Kiwi's question, it's electric magnetism.
Yeah, what's electromagnetism? Anyone?
It's the force that comes from counter space.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Because it's more likely to come from counter space and not Lake Erie
There's
on my
nothing.
back.
There's nothing in the laws of thermodynamics that say that it couldn't. So while it may be unlikely, there's a slim
No, no, no.
chance.
Now, the fusion, right? The fusion reaction that's supposedly taking place, causing the explosion, is being countered by gravity, keeping it in. But fusion also, it will create electrical energy just from the sheer energy of it, which will abide by any necessities of some kind of electrical influence.
Okay, there may have to be a part two to this because we're only halfway through a video. A good call though, Brian, even though it was right at the end when I was just about to round out. Sneaky sod. But in the meantime, we may do a part two on Sabine Hosselenfelder. But at this point, I'm going to start stressing the PC. We've done a good solid almost 2 hours of live streaming. But I do, in all sincerity, want to stress the computer so that I can be confident that I can do things while we're doing the live show beyond just playing a video. So, yeah, pretend. No, I'll do a proper outro. So with that, I'll say stay tuned, even if you're watching live or on an after show or whatever. But yeah, a massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panel for making today's actual live show possible, even though we are going to stay live and I'll be stressing the computer while we do so, and you get to experience what would typically be an after show. So I'm going to invite one of the mods to move all of the guests into the after show so that if we do have a disaster, I've already thanked you for watching, liking, commenting, subscribing, joining as a member, gifting memberships and all that good stuff. There's been a few people over the last few days who've hit me up on PayPal, so a little bit more PayPal than I normally get, which I'm very, very grateful for. Instant money for me. Thank you very much to you know you are. I should have sent you all a message. I'm pretty sure I have. So thank you to you as well. When times are tough, PayPals are very much appreciated. So there we go. Thank you to all of you. But we will continue live, and if there is a disaster, at least there's been a semi-official ending to the live stream. But stick around. There'll be a conversation. Eventually, this live stream will obviously end, and we will transition to official after show. But for the time being, hopefully you can just hear the guys chatting amongst themselves. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned because you're watching live. Da-da-dun, 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 da-da-dun. Dun, 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 dun.
Do you
Why
think
did
if you asked,
Why did you close out now? and not 3 minutes ago? Was it more likely that you would close out now?
Strictly speaking, that it didn't. There's nothing in the laws of nature that say that I couldn't have or didn't round out 4.5 minutes ago. So strictly speaking, there is still a possibility that time will go backwards, and I will have rounded out 4.5 minutes ago. Dun dun dun.
Well, guys, just so you know, entropy only applies when it overcomes gravity. I think that's what Sabine was trying to say. As dumb as that sounds.
Pretty sure it applies whenever it's required to be applied. I mean, if you've got a problem and no one else can help, somebody somewhere knows that you can call gravity.
The G team.
The G team. I was thinking how to segue into that. You know, you can call the G team. Yeah, but men will turn up with like feather dusters and vibrators if you call the G team. I just looked it up. Disgusting. Anyway, that's Brian's filthy mind.
Yeah, because that's what I thought. That's not where you're going with your sarcasm. The G team.
Yeah, well, that was where I was going for the A team, right? If you've got a problem, no one else can help.
Yeah, if you've got a problem, yeah, there's someone you can call.
Maybe you can hire the G team. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah. That's gravity. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, because that's what they need all the time. And this is what I won't tell you any more about the rest of it. QE knows the rest of it. So we'll leave that be live. We leave that cover live to review the rest.
The rumpus as Murdoch, soundly as B.A. Baracus. Fight the flat earth's face.
I like the way you made Rumpus Murdoch because he's crazy.
Right.
Babylon. Who would be Hannibal?
I didn't think he would be the leader. Because then you've got to. I would have to have named the leader, wouldn't I? I deliberately didn't, but you've brought it up immediately, of course. I don't know.
Maybe Blue Marble Science.
Excuse me. The leader, Blue Marble. You having me on? You've got to pick somebody who's got like every aspect, like wit, charm, intelligence. He was the most famous person on that show. You know that, right?
As an actor?
Yeah.
George Pepper.
Yeah, he was more famous than Mr. T at the time.
At the time, yeah, at the time. Afterwards, I would say it was Mr. T. But,
oh, Mr. T was miles more famous thereafter, you know.
Yeah. So who would be the leader of the G team?
Oh, I don't know. Who would be respected? Or
it would have been George Netchuk.
You think so?
I would say so. He's older and all that, but he's not around now.
I don't know. George Netchuk. Anybody agree? George Netchuk would be the leader of the G team.
No, not really. He doesn't always have a plan.
Who would have been face? I would have given that to Ruhif.
I gave that to Fight the Flat Earth.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, this is fun, isn't it? Who would your favourite A-Team character be if they were a Glober?
Who's
G-Team?
What was that? You never watched the...
Is a Kumu virus BA?
That's racist.
That'd make
yeah,
you
but we
the
do
equivalent
have
of Colonel Decker, Nathan.
Yes.
He's a pretty big black dude, though.
Who? Mr. T?
Why don't you want me through this?
Why do you want me through this?
Akumu virus is a pretty impressive dude, actually, when you see his picture.
He'd be Mr. A because he's a Kuma virus.
Right.
I take it we got done with Sabine. I had to step away.
Well, it's likely we did, but it's also unlikely.
It's never going to end, is it?
Nope.
Who's going to be Murdoch?
Oh, that's already Rumpus.
Rumpus.
Sorry.
Who's reducing my noise?
Could be the G Plus Hangout. I have set it to do that.
Am I too loud?
No, it's just auto leveling you with everyone else. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Do you mean in general or just right now?
Well, that's not what he meant. But yeah.
And why to do it right now? Was it more likely right now?
There's nothing to say it wouldn't be right now.
According to the equation, yeah.
She's scary.
Dave would be this face.
She's scary stupid, isn't she?
Who's Sabine?
Yeah, she's a crazy one.
When I pull that any video from Hassenpfeffer up, it's I have to force myself to do it because I can't look at her. I got to do something else and listen.
Yeah, she's idiots.
A lot of the ballers are very attracted to her.
Oh yes, they are.
What?
Yeah, they are. No, I'm not attacking the lady on how she looks. I don't attack anyone on anything like that. It's not right. But she's not someone I would be attracted to.
Who
Now,
cares?
when he means,
Why are we
when he
even
says
talking about
attract-
this?
When he
Look,
says attracted to her,
She's a lovely
who's
fella.
talking over me? Who the hell is talking over me? Is that you, Nathan?
The owner of the show.
Outrageous.
Wasn't me.
Well, I think what Brian's trying to say is because I hear a lot of ballers, some of her sayings. I do. So they are listening to her.
Bullshit attracts
guys.
bullshit. What can I tell you?
If you look into her comments on that video, there's fellas there saying that's the best description of entropy or explanation. I think some of them said explanation actually, which is completely wrong. Of entropy I've ever heard. You know, I understand it so much more now. That's what they're saying.
I think Bob, the science guy, should be John Hannibal. He
Just
always
can't
has a
let this go. Just can't let this go, can you?
Nope.
Yeah, I agree, Arwen. Bob would be perfect. I knew there was someone. Bob would be perfect.
Yeah, he always has a plan. A really stupid plan, but he at least has a plan.
I guess that's what counts in the end, huh?
Uh-huh. Fallacy is better than nothing.
Where's Chocolate Ben? Have you been brought up to speed on the goings on?
Or the last, what I caught, what goings on are we talking about in particular?
We're talking about the treasonous, treacherous traitor, Hanoi Gerain.
Oh, yeah. I know about
Oh,
that.
okay.
I was here for that.
You were here for that. Wait a second.
Well, no.
You
not
weren't at
not
QE's.
not the QE live special that you did, but the original show for that, yeah.
What's your take?
Sorry.
Are you serious? You already know my take, man.
Does he? Okay, well, that's the end of that conversation.
I've been letting everyone.
Well, I mean, thank God for the world that, Mr. the Great Disseminator of all things scamish is here to elucidate the world of our existence. Apparently, that's his role, is to tell the world that we're scammers. Yeah. That's a hell of a goal, buddy.
And projection.
That checks out.
Well, I told everyone on 24/7 that's been using the celestial navigation arguments, which are many. I told them they were all scammers.
Yep. Just got to eat it.
They weren't very happy about that. I'll just say that.
Oh, you should direct them to Mr. Arbiter of all things scamish. That's what I'm calling him now.
He had an off day yesterday on Glowbusters. I listened to Glowbusters and Jaron wasn't there. He had the day off. So I read into the comments or into the live chat, people asking where is Jaron, and supposedly once a month he takes a Sunday off or something like that, right? Now I also saw in the start of the live chat, there was a bit of a that Nathan is bad, evil Nathan, right? Now no one mentioned QE, evil Nathan, and then people saying that Nathan would have a lot more following if he just was a bit of a nicer guy, kind of stuff. This is what was going on.
Hey, Brian,
They had nothing. Go on.
Brian, if you had to go down on McToon, you'd need a day off to wash your mouth out too.
Wow.
But
But hey, if it walks like a duck, it's quacks like a duck. I don't know. Might be a duck.
as I was reading some of the live chat, this is towards where I started the show. There was a lot of evil Nathan kind of. So there was a few people starting with the evil Nathan thing, but then bit by bit it kind of petered out where Nathan wasn't too bad if he just was a little less abrasive, or he, kind of what is this? If he stopped thinking he knew everything, or this kind of thing. They couldn't really pin Nathan down on anything other than shouting at people.
Was he the only one called evil? I want to be evil. I want to be evil.
I didn't see any mention of anyone else. I didn't see mention of anyone but Nathan. Not a mention of QE or anything. Even though QE did the whole thing the other night, because what are they going to say? They can all they can do is attack Nathan for shouting at people, and that's mostly the ballers he was shouting at, if you remember right. Who deserve it? Nathan doesn't shout at people who don't deserve it.
Well, I got the timestamp of the video that I wanted reviewed, but I'll hold off on it.
But there is a probability that Nathan will holler at people that don't deserve it. Therefore, entropy doesn't apply to the sun.
I mean, that is basically what has happened already based on the probability and non-description of it not happening. Seems only reasonable.
Yeah, it's likely that he will shout at someone who doesn't deserve it. So that means entropy doesn't apply to the sun.
No, it does. It's just that the gravitation and the probably something electrostatic because of the plasma electric reactions, right? It all keeps it in until it becomes too unstable and then it explodes.
Hyperthrusters are go.
Hey, sorry, I just paid attention at school. No, actually, I mean,
and I just like Voltron.
When everybody applauded, that's what really happened.
She just thought too far into the wrong direction. She just went guns blazing with it. Off of one fallacious question.
Yeah, but that's what you do. Being an astrophysicist, you have to waste a lot of time. And you have to do it in a way that people don't understand how you are wasting their time. And that way you get a lot of people that stay interested, think you're brilliant because they just don't get it yet. You have to stay ahead of their understanding, ahead of that curve. Because there is a growth curve.
I think that's just a consequence of her education. Because it's not really a globe thing. as we can see, the flat earthers are doing the same exact thing. So
Well, look, you
Yeah.
take over the techniques and habits of your enemies. That's just what happens, right?
Oh,
Is it?
Yeah, a lot of
That's what-
people
that's
do.
what-
Like
that's what
that
Baldwin does.
naturally happens unless you have personal principles and safeguards to prevent some of those influences. If you don't have that, or you let go of them, you just become your enemy. The classic.
the enemy of my enemy is my friend. What does that
Is
make?
it more
the friend
likely?
of my enemy?
unless the Jewish
Oh, brother.
okay.
What?
Is it more likely?
That's what I asked, but I got rumpus.
Yeah, you rumpus the middle of my sentence. Thank you.
Eli,
What's up?
stay till the after show. I got a question.
All right, got you. I was planning to stay anyway. I wanted the rest of the guys to hear that video. Well, the 24/7 conversation from the other day.
You sure you want to let him hear it?
Why not?
All right.
Am I supposed to be playing something or something?
I sense an indictment coming.
Am I supposed to be playing something or something? What's going on?
Yeah, or something.
I think it's more likely that you don't.
Okay, well, this is a wonderful conversation killer then. Glad you brought it up.
You're welcome.
Well, because it is more likely you don't, therefore heliocentrism is true.
Wait, so did we get to the end of the Sabine video? Did she declare why she titled it that way, or did we figure out why?
No,
Why
we'll
was
find out
title- I
tomorrow
don't-
though, I'm sure.
It,
Or we'll
it's
move on
likely we did.
or we'll move on inexplicably and never mention it again.
Copy that. I don't
Shout
really
out.
care, but it's just curious.
Shout out to Ask Dad Anything. This is thanks for refusing to compromise and fraternizing with the ball zealots. Okay. Thank you very much for the super chat.
Amen to that. Yeah.
It goes way above. It goes way above fraternization.
Hold on, we're going to get into this again when I said I was
Well,
specifically accused
hello.
of fraternizing with ball-tards when they would come in their numbers thinking they could win.
You never fraternize. That's not fraternization.
Okay. I'm just saying what I was accused of.
There must be a word for it. Destroying them. There must be a word for it.
But at the time, maybe we weren't. Maybe we weren't as educated and as disciplined when that criticism was made of me. No?
It's
What the
likely.
hell are we
Perhaps
even
not.
talking about?
But you still destroyed them.
Well, thank you.
Well, that was more likely.
Here we go. Well, we started.
Yeah, I agree with QE. It's well beyond fraternization. That's why
Well,
there was
that's
a
why he
love
had to
around
take-
him and them too. Go on.
I was just gonna say that's why he had to take the day off. You know, there's a lot of mouth rinsing have to go after some shit like that. You know.
If you do enough kissing kind of stuff, you'll end up with sore lips.
Yeah, yeah. Just some things Clorox will not take the taste out of your mouth, though.
That's just hyperbole. Just hyperbole.
Hyperbole. Hyperbole. Hyperbole.
Hume doesn't even have to give a response to any of that. He doesn't even have to address any of that. He got what he wanted. and he knows it.
And a high five and a slap on the ass at the end.
I see he invited
Because that's how celestial navigation works on a ball. The fuck?
How come he's not coming here?
Because we're evil.
How come nobody in the Globebusters chat that I looked at mentioned QE, pointing out how all these elevation angles are right angle triangles? How come nobody addressed that?
How come
I watched
McToon's
about
got in
15
touch with
minutes.
all? Sorry, Brian. How come McToon's got in touch with Alwyn and wants to debate it on Alwyn's show?
Yeah, he sent me that email. That's right. Ridiculous. But apparently he pays attention to my activities, so that's interesting. Yeah, for the record, I'm not going to go on a show with McToon. I mean, what the hell am I going to do there?
Makes you think that when McToon smiled after he got Jaron to say that about that's how it works on a ball, he might have been smiling at us, don't you think?
I have no doubt.
Yeah, Fox's smile.
The false Freudian smile. Yep.
It's about Freudian. It's duping delight. It's just pleased. You know, if you're struggling to get past an argument that you can't get an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline, and your flat Earth opponent says, "Oh, I totally understand how you can get an angle from a curve," then you're going to be delighted with the outcome, aren't you?
No, I can totally relate to them. Yeah. But they're not even aware of what they're doing. I don't know, maybe some of them are.
You've yet to demonstrate a curve yet, haven't they?
I think
that one.
Demonstrate, please.
I think McToon was well aware of what he was doing. I don't think he wasn't.
Dude, they all are. They all are.
That's a fact.
You mean Herman
They
Munster
fucking know what
blockhead?
they're doing, cunt.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's not. Hold on a second. What the hell? That's Herman Munster blockhead, McBooger eater.
Herman Munster blockhead.
That's a good description. But I want to know why he's not contacting QE, Flat Earth Debate, 10th Man, Brian.
Listen, the last time
Because
he showed up
if he
here,
contacts me.
the last time he showed up here, he showed up with Fight the Tight shirt with some sort of an award. Right?
With his mute button on.
Yeah. Without actually presenting any evidence or any argument or anything. Just, we're here to present you guys in an award. That's what we got between the two of us. We both showed up here at the same time to do that. Instead of destroy your arguments and show everybody how we're living on a magical spinning water ball flying around in a vacuum. Nah. We ain't gonna do that.
Well, that's because a gas giant is solid enough.
Solid enough. QE, at what point does a gas giant become solid enough?
That's the wrong question. It's when is it more likely?
Copy that. Well, according to my equation over here,
I
it's
might
not
be
very
hanging
likely,
myself,
but it's likely.
but I'm not convinced that I'm not convinced that you can't have a ball with air.
You're going to have to be a bit more specific. A ball with air? What do you mean?
just the ball with air. Like I'm not convinced that you can't have that. Like like it's pretty fucking out there.
You mean a
Out where?
ball with air?
Ball with air
on
where?
on the outside of it?
Actually, you know what? I'm gonna retract that. I'm gonna fucking get owned on that statement for sure. For sure. I'm not convinced myself, but I know for a fact you guys are gonna fucking own me on that.
Wow.
It's very likely.
You're saying our reputations precede us, okay? But
yeah, no, fucking you guys are gonna fucking destroy me on that for sure.
Try not to
No
swear too
swearing.
much.
No swearing.
I'm not convinced, but I know you'll fucking destroy me.
No swearing.
But you've obviously had
sorry.
you've interjected your feelings because they're strong. I get that bit, but why? Just give us a why. You don't have to worry about getting destroyed. We'll be gentle with you, I promise.
Okay. I'll give it to you. I'm not like the idea of air molecules going up like towards the vacuum. Okay, I get that it's gonna go into the vacuum, all right? Like, but apart from that, like, I don't know, like going up, eventually it's gonna stop bouncing into other air molecules, and then the only force acting upon it is going to be the gravity in big quotations. That's the only thing that's going to be bringing it back down at that point. So, like, why would the air escape if it's... But yeah, I know you guys are going to destroy me on this. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, there's too many things you have to... go ahead, John. There's about 50 things wrong.
Are you standing in a space where gas fills space?
Oh, fuck knows, man. just try and deliver it to me.
No, just
why doesn't it, like, because it's all bouncing, right? And then it gets thinner and thinner as it goes out, and then eventually it's not bouncing anymore. And the only force acting upon it is supposedly in their system is the gravity, and then it like comes back down to Earth.
Can I ask you a question?
I'm not sure that the like.
I'm thinking no, Adam.
I'm thinking no. He wants to carry on making the same false claim. Yeah. So you've now made.
No, I'm sure I am. I'm sure I am. Like, I have no idea what claim I'm making with this.
Gravity affects the behavior of gas molecules. But for all of this to continue and your logic to succeed, you've made that claim. But in their world, they'll make the statement that no, gravity does not have any effect on the behavior of gas molecules. The only time they ever try to enforce that is when it's got to your Corman line, as you're trying to allude. But there is no citation anywhere or a demonstration that you can show where, in fact, it's the complete opposite, isn't it? Gas particles, as you said, are free to move in all directions.
Exactly, and that's why I don't believe it. You can't demonstrate that. You can't demonstrate gravity.
But the balloon,
you know that.
Balloon is the bottom of the balloon more expanded than the top.
Yeah, but is that gravity?
For you, it'd have to be, wouldn't it? Eventually, if I keep the balloon in the same place,
yeah, for a globe, yeah, I'm not a globe, but
the bottom of the balloon is going to have a higher pressure because you're saying that the gas molecules are subject to this force you've stated as gravity. How and why wouldn't the balloon do that then?
Pretty much, they're just relying on gravity, right? That's about the oxygen comes back down because of gravity, all right? That's how it works.
No, that's kind of little delusion, isn't it? Yeah.
No, well, that's what they think.
The kinetic speed of the molecule achieves zero and then reverse back. What would be the temperature for a gas molecule to have a static speed while still being a gas molecule?
Well, it would just reverse because of gravity, right?
No. What would be the speed?
That's how things work.
It would what would be the temperature? It'd have to be for a gas molecule to be having zero kinetic energy, and then have this magical force and able to turn it around. So not a collision-based change of movement, but a depletion of kinetic energy, and then somehow a recharging of this kinetic energy with your magic gravity. What temperature would it
I
have
love how you
to
guys
be
just
to
destroy
get the kinetic
imaginary
energy to
forces
zero?
that people make up. But yeah.
It's a concept.
Go on. You're killing it.
I'm slightly confused about your statement.
Adam hasn't answered.
You,
He's thrown out. He's essentially thrown it back to Adam. Adam can now answer, which may have been rhetorical. Let's just do it. I don't know, Adam. What temperature would a gas molecule have to be to remain gas and stop, and then return back to from whence it came? I don't know what temperature, Adam.
Let's go with
It would be
that. That's a good question.
theoretical temperature that we couldn't achieve at absolute zero, minus 273 Kelvin. But the only way that you could withdraw all of the kinetic energy out of the molecule to prevent it, i.e. decelerate it and stop it continuing in an unimpeded way, and then you've still then got to obviously add your magic gravity that somehow charges up the kinetic batteries of this molecule. Yeah? The description of how gravity is supposedly depleting them recharging to prevent the escape of gas molecules is nonsensical in itself. We've got this gravity force which somehow now affects kinetic energy of the gas particles, yeah, to deplete and then recharge in the opposite polarity. It's kind of nonsensical, but fundamental to their claim.
I'm just slightly confused about the original statement.
Well, the original
you said
statement, I don't know.
he's-
I'm asking for an explanation of something that like no one really has. So that's
Hold on one second.
What's that?
You guys are
you
definitely
said-
right though. No one has the fucking answer, and
Am
it's
I-
definitely not the globe.
Am I not talking? Can I ask you a question about your statement? You said the air goes up, and then somehow this whatever you're calling gravity somehow brings
So
it
if
back
it was
down.
a ball, yes, then the air would eventually bounce up into the atmosphere high above and bounce out into the like into the space land. And but yeah, no, that doesn't happen.
I get that. But my question is well, you're saying it's going to come back down, but if whatever you're calling
gravity, I'm assuming gravity.
Can I finish the
100%,
statement,
I'm
bro?
assuming gravity.
Can I finish the statement, brother?
Yeah, sorry.
Whatever it is that you're calling gravity, if it exists, why would it allow the air to go up in the first place?
I don't know, man. But I'm trying to think in a baller's like sense, you know, like I'm trying to think as a baller, you know.
Well, there's a second part.
But yeah, I'd love for them to explain gravity
here's
for me
where
to
the
like be.
problem is.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm just grasping at
here's where the
straws,
problem
man. They
is. The
don't have a
problem was
proper
introduced before
understanding.
you even said.
Holy shit!
Yeah, nah. You're all talking over each other.
Hey, Molnar.
Sorry, boys. You go ahead.
Molnar,
You go
hold
ahead.
on one second. Hold on one second. Molnar, when you make a point, go ahead and make a point and stop. And then don't talk
sorry,
after that.
Sorry, boys.
until
Yeah.
there's break. And don't talk, don't nod along audibly and agree because you're cutting everyone's mic off. Okay?
Roger.
Yeah,
no,
nah.
I got you. Yeah. I won't.
So-
Sorry, boys.
Yeah, nah. Go on mute.
So the problem came before you even said anything about gravity because you think that a gas molecule, like Adam pointed out, is gonna somehow lose energy. But your assumption there is wrong. That's the problem.
It's worse than that.
Hang on. Why
because
wouldn't a gas molecule lose energy if it's going into a lower energy area? What are you talking about? Are you serious? That statement was like, what?
It would. Adam explained it to you earlier. He asked you, and you said it was a good question. at what temperature would it have to relinquish its energy to the point where it stops? And then he answered, absolute zero.
Absolute zero, right?
Right, does that happen?
No, I'm not just claiming anything.
Well, the answer's no, it
No, you're
doesn't.
assuming it in your question.
Yeah, well, that's what I said. It's a loaded question, and I knew it. I knew it's loaded. That's all I said. I don't know. I didn't say that exactly, but yeah.
Are you a new flatty and you're like looking for explanations for your old globe belief?
No, I just love to hear these. Yeah, I guess I'm new. Yeah,
fair enough.
I like to hear these new explanations. I want to hear it from. I know this is one of the big ones that I talk to other people about, and they think that no, that gravity just brings the air back. All right, like it just goes away and then it comes back. Once it like can't bounce off anything, it comes back.
Okay, step
and
one
this is what a lot of globers think.
But that goes
100%.
back to my question before. If
I
what
don't
you're
think
saying
this, but
exists,
yes, this is
why
what
would it
people
go
think.
anywhere in the first place?
Yeah, well, I don't know, because of bouncing.
Where
not
do
gonna
you
eventually
think
bounce
this
up?
supposed gravity? Because you're kind of talking like gravity is a force, which it hasn't been in over 100 years. But skipping that, you're saying
I'm well aware of that.
right. Okay, so where would
more
that
kind of
supposed
like-
force be?
I'm
the
playing
strongest,
devil
according-
advocate, guys. Like seriously, I don't fucking believe in this shit. I'm
got that.
playing
Kick
devil
'em out.
advocate, and I'm
Kick
like,
'em out.
what, this is
And
what
that's cool. That's
this is
cool. There
what I
might be
would think
somebody else
as
that's
a
listening
baller.
that might have. Oh my god!
You're still over talking people non-stop.
I'm done.
Yeah, do you realize that gas molecules would be bringing temperature with them?
We
You understand that?
We just covered that. Absolute zero.
No, bringing
Yeah, if it's
temperature with
moving,
them. What I mean
if
is
it's
that.
moving, it has temperature. Yeah.
Yeah, what I mean is that
But what's the point?
it's not like within that paradigm, they're trying to state that one gas particle or molecule gets to the Kármán line and then it just is brought back down. That's what they're basically trying to say. That's what they basically try to claim. But if there's going to be a lot more than one, and that all the gas molecules that will be getting to that point would be bringing temperature with them because they have kinetic energy. Now, what temperature are they meeting up at a vacuum? They're not meeting any temperature, are they? But they're creating the temperature.
Is that what you're suggesting?
They're creating the temperature.
Yeah. That makes
That's
sense.
why gas will fill a vacuum because it has a temperature before it reaches the vacuum. But that doesn't mean there isn't lower pressure up high. There is lower pressure up high. But what stops the gas from, let's just say, best way to describe it is most of our gas and our air pressure, and I mean the majority of it, I'm talking between 75 to 85% of all our air is below cloud level, right? Now that's only a couple of miles up. If you went up to 22 miles high, there is very low pressures, right? But there is a certain amount of gas up there. But most gases never get past, or the majority of gas doesn't get past 10 miles. Because at 10 miles high, the temperature is so low that there is such little kinetic energy, only a small amount of the gas gets past that. But the temperature starts to rise again past 10 miles up. But with the available space that is up there, let's just say there was another 25 miles to fill, right? After the 10 miles. Let's say there's 35 miles to fill, right? Whatever, 45. The point is that whatever gas gets past that minus 51 degrees at 10 miles up, whatever gas gets past that has to fill the rest. But that little bit of gas is obviously not causing this rising temperature. So what's causing the rise in temperature? Is it radiative heat from the sun affecting, being in... Well, what's creating this rise in
Just
temperature?
looked it up. Hold on. Got an answer. May have been rhetorical. Gravity.
Yeah, what's the answer, Nathan?
Well, I would state radiative heat created by the sun on a container, radiator feet.
Yeah,
Through
the,
it.
the sun's up there.
That's a possibility, but I don't know.
Yeah, but the sun's up there in the second law of thermodynamics violation of
Dude,
sky vacuum.
none of us know.
Because of gravity. So, you know, seems reasonable.
I say it's Earth moving up.
Also seems reasonable.
I don't like the whole
Please
none
don't
of
say
us
that.
know statement. The more accurate thing is you ask the question that had a problem within it in the first place. That's the problem. It's not none of us know. You asked a bad question because there was an assumption in it.
Yeah, Mulder, this is your problem. And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's live and, strictly speaking, semi-after show possible because it stayed live the whole time, which is wonderful. Also, of course, a massive thank you to all of you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, hitting me up on PayPal and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!